The homeroom teacher quietly asked us to look out for her, so, as her deskmate, I often brought 2 of everything to save her pride. I'd often pretend things were buy one get one free. Little did I know, right before the college entrance exams, Xiaowei stabbed me to death while screaming, "I'll get what I want on my own. Who asked you to give it to me, and you give me things that are exactly like your own? You just want everyone to know I'm living off you, don't you? I'm sick of your condescending attitude. Drop dead, all of you." I died in shock and agony, only to open my eyes and find myself back at the moment our homeroom teacher was giving us instructions. 1. Xiaowei's family isn't well off, and she's a proud girl. She won't accept the school's financial aid, so I want you all to look out for her a bit more in your daily lives, the homeroom teacher advised patiently. "Okay, teacher." A few students replied in scattered, half-hearted voices, especially you, by meow, as Xiaowei's deskmate, you should take extra care of her. Seeing that I remained silent, the teacher singled me out specifically. "But teacher, you said yourself she's proud. What if we try to help and she takes it as an insult?" I asked, looking her straight in the eye. The homeroom teacher was momentarily speechless, then retorted with righteous indignation, "Well, can't you be a bit more tactful?" "Sorry, teacher, but I'm here to study. The college entrance exam is this semester, and I don't have the energy to look after someone else. How about I just switch seats? Whoever wants to can go sit there." Of course, the homeroom teacher wouldn't agree to that. Since I was the wealthiest student in the whole class, the students called over were all among the better performers academically and came from fairly well-off families. By meow, how can you be so unkind to a classmate? It's just a little help. How much effort would it really take? Teacher, I'm just a student, helping someone in need isn't my responsibility. If they won't even accept the school's assistance, who am I to force myself on them? How can you say something like that? Fine, whatever, just go. You really have no sense of camaraderie at all. I couldn't wait to leave, but as I walked out, I could still hear them saying, "All right, don't follow her example. It's fate that brought you together as classmates, so you should always help each other when you can." I snorted in derision and walked straight out. The college entrance exams are right around the corner. Time is so tight, and yet you're worrying about such trivial matters. No wonder, after all these years as a homeroom teacher, the students you produce keep getting worse with each graduating class. When I got to the classroom, the other students were already hard at work, grinding through practice problems. I returned to my seat and seized every second, not sparing a single glance for Xiaowei beside me. Even when her pen ran out of ink, her pencil tip broke, and she sat there sighing. I didn't make a sound. It wasn't until she leaned over herself and said, "By meow, my pens are useless. Can I borrow one?" I calmly put away the box full of new pens and replied, "Sorry, I don't have any extras." She stared fixedly at the box I had just stashed away. "By meow, you have so many new pens right there, don't you?" "Oh, I bought too many. I'm going to return them." "Why? Do you want one? I can sell it to you at the original price, 10 yuan each." In the end, she turned away, embarrassed, and went to borrow one from someone else. Ugh, too cheap to spend your own money but still have to borrow. How are you even gonna pay it back? That's just freeloading. In my past life, when the homeroom teacher said that, I just went along with everyone else and agreed. Back in the classroom, seeing Xiaowei's embarrassment, I took the initiative and gave her all my newly bought stationery. I even lied, saying it was a buy one get one free extra, that I had more than I could use and it'd be a waste, so she was doing me a favor by taking it. They took it and used it without hesitation, but not only didn't say a word of thanks, they even wore an expression of utter humiliation. At the time, remembering my homeroom teacher's advice, I didn't make a fuss. I even wondered if I had done something wrong to hurt their pride, and now, when I don't offer, they come right out and ask for it. Is it that things that are handed to you on a silver platter seem cheap, while what you have to beg for is somehow sweeter? Given a second chance at life, I refuse to be that pathetic fool who delivers themselves to others' doorsteps anymore. If I ever let her get the slightest advantage over me, my life will have been a waste too. After evening study, I went back to the dorm, washed up, went to bed, and ignored everything else. You need proper rest to have the energy to study effectively. I vaguely heard my roommates talking. "Oh, Xiaowei, you're out of toothpaste. Here, use mine, and here's some toner and moisturizer. This set is brand new, never opened. Here you go." I didn't hear Xiaowei's reply, but I imagine she took it with a look of utter humiliation. I rolled over, facing the wall, and went back to sleep. Early the next morning, while my roommate was still asleep, I got up. As I was washing up, Xiaowei came in too. It was still a bit chilly in early spring, yet she washed with cold water. I pretended not to see, and poured out all the water from the thermos. I wiped my face and neck clean, feeling refreshed, then turned and headed to the cafeteria. It was no surprise at all. Xiaowei followed me to the cafeteria again. I ordered soy milk, fried dough sticks, and soup dumplings, while she just got a bowl of plain congee with the complimentary side dishes. Neither of us said a word, and she deliberately sat right across from me. We're in the same class and dorm, after all. It would have been rude for me to just get up and leave after finishing their meal. The two of them walked back to the classroom, one after the other. As we were almost there, I heard a voice call from behind. "Bai Miao, do you have some kind of problem with me?" I turned around with a puzzled look. "Why would you think that? So why aren't you talking? And why don't you care about me?" she asked, with surprising sincerity. I was at a loss for how to react. "What do I owe you? Anyway, Xiaowei, come on. I'm just like this by nature. Besides, we're not even that close. We're seniors now, let's just focus on our studies." With that, I just walked into the classroom by myself. In my past life, I acted like a total doormat. Whenever she needed something, I'd hand over mine without her even asking, then go buy a new one for myself later. There were 4 of us in the dorm, but the other 2 never even got a chance to step up. They just praised me for being generous and a great, supportive friend. The 3 of us, naive and gullible, were completely brainwashed by our homeroom teacher into thinking Xiaowei's silence was just shyness. Little did we know, she was using us all along, quietly nursing a grudge inside. Honestly, I can't stand exchanging even a single word with her in this lifetime, but who would have thought? This person is the ultimate hypocrite, absolutely insufferable. During morning self-study, I had my earphones in, reciting English words, completely absorbed. Suddenly, my desk was knocked a few times. I looked up to see my homeroom teacher looking displeased. "Bai Miao, come with me to the office." I had no idea what it was about. When I got there, I found Xiaowei was also there, her eyes red and swollen, clearly having cried. "What's going on this time? Bai Miao, didn't I tell you to get along with the new student and look out for her? Just look at what you've done." I was stunned. "Teacher, what did I do? As her deskmate, you've been giving her the cold shoulder and didn't lift a finger when she was struggling. Remember, while studying is important, being a decent person is even more so. With an attitude like yours, what future do you think you'll have after graduation?" The homeroom teacher's criticism had escalated into a personal attack. However, she at least had the decency to keep her voice down, mindful of the other teachers nearby. I retorted loudly, "Teacher, how am I being unresponsive? What kind of trouble is it that absolutely requires my help? And what's wrong with the way I conduct myself?" Instantly, all the other teachers in the office looked over. The homeroom teacher's face flushed with anger. "You're incorrigible. I can't get through to you. I'm calling your parents." "Teacher, why can't you get through to me? If you're calling my parents, you should at least explain why you're having them come in." My voice was really loud, and just then, the grade level head came over. "What's going on here?" 3. I jumped in to complain before my homeroom teacher could speak. "Sir, my homeroom teacher said I ignore my classmates, that I don't help people when they're in trouble, that I have a bad character, and that my studying is a waste, but I haven't done any of that. I don't even know what I did wrong. The teacher won't tell me. She just wants to call my parents." Ms. Wu, is this true? The grade level head looked at the homeroom teacher with suspicion. The homeroom teacher was momentarily at a loss for words. At this moment, Xiaowei began to sniffle. "I'm sorry, teacher. I'm just being overly sensitive. It's just that Bai Miao seems to have a problem with me these past couple of days. I asked to borrow a pen, and she wouldn't lend me one even though she had extras. She ignores me in the dorm and doesn't speak when we go out together. I thought she looked down on me because my family is poor, and I was feeling a bit upset. That's why the homeroom teacher noticed and asked about it." The homeroom teacher saw this and quickly stepped forward to comfort her. "Xiaowei, don't be upset. This isn't your fault. There are just people in this world who look down on the poor and fawn over the rich. Bai Miao, look at what you've done. Seriously, are these 2 out of their minds?" I was absolutely speechless. Xiaowei is proud. Did she have to broadcast her family's poverty to the whole world, and then expect everyone to revolve around her? The key point is, the homeroom teacher just made that judgment call, just like that. So, just because I ended up with her as my deskmate, I'm supposed to take care of her and be the sucker. Thinking back to my past life, the worst part was that after being taken for a ride, the person still resented me. What a lunatic. Clearly, the grade level leader also felt something was off. He cleared his throat. "Ms. Wu, how can you judge a student like that? Regardless, we should at least hear what Bai Miao has to say." I cleared my throat. "Teacher, those pens were all brand new and used. I was going to return them, but Xiaowei said she wanted them, so I offered them to her at the original price. Then she changed her mind." What's wrong with that? After a whole day of studying, I'm completely exhausted. I just go back to the dorm, wash up, and go straight to sleep. When would I even have the time or energy to bother with anyone? Besides, she didn't pay any attention to me either, so how is this suddenly my fault again? As for when we were leaving, I was walking ahead and didn't even notice anyone. There's no school rule that says you have to walk backwards and greet every single person you pass, is there? After hearing this rebuttal, the homeroom teacher's face flushed red with anger. By meow. Didn't we tell you all to look out for Xiaowei? You should have been the one to take the initiative. Just look at your attitude. At this point, even the grade-level head couldn't stand it anymore. Teacher Wu, you're clearly taking sides here. I think what Bai Miao said makes sense. All right, this is all trivial. What's important right now is studying and preparing for the college entrance exams. Everyone, just go back. The grade-level head put his foot down, putting an end to the whole farce. For the next few days, Xiaowei and I entered a phase of simply ignoring each other. I asked the homeroom teacher a few more times to change my seat, but she just wouldn't budge. Every time she looked like she wanted to give me a piece of her mind, but with the grade-level head sharing the office, she had to bite her tongue. It's just that during class, the homeroom teacher would always use me as a bad example, making sarcastic remarks. My roommate and other classmates asked me privately what was wrong, and I didn't hold back. In this life, I'm not going to be that poor sucker or unlucky fool anymore, and I shouldn't drag others down with me, right? But there will always be people whose hearts overflow with misguided sympathy under the teacher's guidance. I can't control that. I've said what needed to be said. I thought I had made my stance perfectly clear, so surely nothing could go wrong. But then, at the subsequent parent-teacher meeting, my homeroom teacher really pulled out all the stops. For the parent-teacher meeting fell on a Friday, and both my parents attended. Seeing them for the first time since getting the second chance at life, I couldn't help but hug them and cry, thinking about how I just died in my past life. They must have been so heartbroken. I'm an only child. My parents run a small business, so our family was fairly comfortable. They spoiled me since I was little, so I never really experienced the darker side of human nature. My parents especially often taught me, do not neglect any good deed, however small, do not commit any evil deed, however minor. That's why in my past life, when the homeroom teacher said I should look after Xiaowei, I was so obedient. In this life, screw that looking after nonsense. Seeing me cry now, my parents got worried. Meow meow, what's wrong? Who upset you? It's nothing. Dad, Mom, I just miss home. Oh, look at you, all grown up and still crying because you're homesick. Aren't you ashamed? My dad teased me. My mother, however, seemed thoughtful. You're about to take the college entrance exams. If you can't even take care of yourself like this at school, maybe you should commute from home instead. Yes, I agreed readily. If time weren't so tight, I'd have wanted to switch schools altogether. After entering the classroom, the homeroom teacher quickly began the parent-teacher conference. Same routine as always. First, the results. I did pretty well this time. Second in the class, my parents were quite pleased, but the homeroom teacher just glossed over my achievement and instead went on praising Xiaowei, who came in 10th. He said that despite her family's difficult circumstances, she never lost her drive. She overcame the hardships and still managed to get that 10th place finish. Then he started with the passive-aggressive remarks. Unlike some students who, despite good grades, show no willingness to help others, that kind of student won't amount to much in the real world. I saw Xiaowei's parents, an ordinary couple, flushed with excitement, clearly in full agreement with the homeroom teacher's words. My own parents and the others were a bit bewildered, but they still followed the homeroom teacher's lead and started clapping. Xiaowei and her parents stood up amidst the scattered, half-hearted applause and bowed in all directions. At this, I rolled my eyes and could only think of 2 words for them. Idiots. I thought the parent teacher conference was over. As long as the homeroom teacher didn't single me out by name, I couldn't be bothered with her. The exams are only a few months away anyway. After that, I don't care what happens. But I never expected her to ask my family and Xiaowei's family to stay behind after the meeting. Then, right in front of everyone, she launched into a tirade against my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Bai Miao, you really need to teach your child a lesson. Not only does she refuse to help her classmates at school, but she also leads others in ostracizing them. That's bullying. My parents were absolutely stunned by that statement. They looked at me, then at the teacher, clearly not believing it. Mr. Wu, what exactly do you mean by that? My father asked. Mr. Bai Miao, this is Xiaowei. She's a financially disadvantaged student who transferred in this semester, and she's also your daughter's deskmate and roommate. Given her difficult circumstances, I asked your daughter to look out for her a bit more, but she just ignored her and has been spreading nasty rumors about Xiaowei everywhere. Now the whole class has a problem with Xiaowei because of your daughter. TSK, what a piece of work. The reason we called you here today is to properly resolve this matter. An apology is in order. Furthermore, since Bai Miao's actions have disrupted Xiaowei's learning environment, appropriate compensation is also required. My dad was completely dumbfounded by this. He looked at me and asked, "What's going on? I can't believe it. I've been naive once before, but this kind of ridiculous statement from the homeroom teacher really takes the cake. The real kicker is that Xiaowei and her family acted as if it was completely justified. I just don't get it. It's a classic case of moral blackmail from a past life, combined with sheer hypocrisy." Back then, the homeroom teacher praised me in front of the whole class, saying I was not only a good student but also kind and helpful to my classmates. So I had my parents stay behind to give Xiaowei some financial support. I chimed in back then, and even though my dad wasn't fully clear on the situation, he agreed to it since it was just a small amount of money. I'm not having it this time. Has our homeroom teacher really thrown all decency out the window and is now openly helping them rob us? 5. I can't even be bothered to argue with these idiots anymore. I turned to my dad and said, "Dad, the grade level head knows about this. Let's go talk to him directly." Ignoring the homeroom teacher's attempts to stop us, I took my parents straight to the grade level head's office. After I explained the whole situation, the grade level head's expression became rather complicated. "Bai Miao, I understand the situation now. I'll have a serious talk with your homeroom teacher. You can go back to class and focus on your studies." Like hell, I'm reassured. I didn't bring my parents here just to hear that. I laid my cards on the table with the grade level head teacher. "I genuinely don't understand why our homeroom teacher always thinks I'm in the wrong and insists on helping the other party. They've targeted me over this issue more than once, and it's seriously disrupting my learning environment." The grade level head, considering my academic record, asked, "So, what do you want to do?" "Teacher, I'd like to switch classes and become a day student. That's the only way I can focus properly on my exam preparation." My parents were also putting pressure on them from the sidelines. After hearing the whole story, what parent wouldn't be upset to have their child treated like that? In the end, the grade head agreed to transfer me from class 3 to class 1, and arranged for me to become a day student as well. Unexpectedly, as soon as my homeroom teacher got the news, she rushed over immediately, with Xiaowei and her family in tow. "Head teacher, why are you transferring Bai Miao to class 1? She's the second best student in our class and will surely do well on the college entrance exam. If she leaves, won't that drag down our class's average score?" Now the homeroom teacher is suddenly in a panic. I thought all she knew how to do was force people to be united, friendly, and help each other out of some misguided sense of charity. This was Bai Miao's own request. After considering the overall situation, I find it reasonable, the grade level head replied calmly. But the homeroom teacher disagreed. "Head teacher, I haven't given up on educating a student with character like Bai Miao despite all the effort I've poured in. How can you just transfer her out like that? All my hard work would be for nothing, and she hasn't even made up for the harm she caused Xiaowei." Not knowing the full story before was one thing, but now that my dad knew exactly what had happened behind the scenes, he completely lost it when he heard this. "Ms. Wu, we respect you as a teacher, but how can you distort the truth and casually label a student? Do you have any idea that your reckless words could ruin a student's life?" The homeroom teacher retorted. "Mr. Bai, how am I being reckless? Your daughter, Miao Bai, is indeed bullying her classmates." "Ms. Wu, please watch your words and don't jump to conclusions. Accusations of bullying are extremely serious. Since everyone is here, let's get to the bottom of this right now." The grade level leader interrupted the homeroom teacher, his expression stern, and so, the two families and the two teachers all sat down together, since everyone else had already spoken and only Xiaowei's family remained silent. The grade leader turned to her directly. "Xiaowei, could you please clarify what exactly Teacher Wu meant by bullying?" With an air of righteous indignation, Xiaowei stated, "I know my family is poor, and Bai Miao looks down on me because of it." The grade leader cut her off, gesturing for her to get to the specifics. Xiaowei began listing her grievances. "When Bai Miao sees I'm missing something, she never offers to help." I suppressed a mocking smile. The homeroom teacher said from the start that you're too proud to even accept school aid. If I rushed to help you, wouldn't that be an insult? Xiaowei straightened her back proudly. "Exactly, I may be poor, but my spirit isn't. I won't accept handouts, you can be sure of that." The grade leader asked patiently, "And then what happened?" Xiaowei finally got to the point. "You never actually helped me, so why did you go around telling people you did? Now no one else is willing to help me either." The whole back and forth was making the Grade level head dizzy. So, Xiaowei, do you actually want your classmates to help you or not? 6. That question left Xiaowei speechless. I knew what she was thinking, so I chimed in helpfully. Teacher, I think she'll accept it if we offer voluntarily, but we also have to give it if she asks for it directly. The moment I finished, she blew her top. What are you talking about? I would never be that kind of person. So after all this fuss, what's this about me bullying you? Just as Xiaowei was about to be overwhelmed, the homeroom teacher stepped in to take her side again. By meow, watch your tone. As classmates, you should help each other. If someone needs help, you should offer it proactively. If someone comes to you for help, you should respond. What's the problem with that? Her parents started chiming in too. Our family may be poor, but we have our pride. How could Xiaowei possibly be after your things? She's just upset with your attitude, that condescending, dismissive attitude of yours is the real bullying. My parents weren't having it either. Was my daughter wrong? If you don't want it, then stop going on about it. You feel it's charity and it hurts your pride, yet you still expect her to give it to you. Who can figure out what you people actually want? Seeing the argument go on endlessly without resolution, the grade level head teacher rubbed his temples in frustration. Enough. People have different perspectives, and this debate is pointless. He looked at us and said, I've already agreed to Bai Miao's request. On this matter, Teacher Wu, please don't raise any objections. After all this drama, it wouldn't be good for anyone if they remained deskmates then. He turned to Xiaowei's family. I'm not entirely clear on what you're asking for. Could you please be more specific? Xiaowei's father said with an air of arrogance, just as Teacher Wu said. Bai Miao must apologize to our Xiaowei and compensate us for our emotional distress. My dad let out a bitter laugh. First you talk about bullying, now it's all apologies and compensation. Fine, let's just call the police and settle this properly. The other party looked flustered for a moment. There's no need to involve the police. They're just kids. We can handle this ourselves. My dad ignored them and pulled out his phone anyway. It was the grade level coordinator who finally talked him down. That's when the homeroom teacher chimed in to criticize my family. Mr. Bai, I thought your daughter Miao's character was bad enough. Turns out it runs in the family. As parents, you shouldn't just focus on making money. You need to better yourselves and set a proper example for your child. At that point, even the grade level head couldn't hold back and began to scold. Ms. Wu, do you have any idea what you're saying? Apologize to Bai Miao and her family immediately. The homeroom teacher stubbornly insisted she was right. I exchanged a look with my parents that confirmed it. This homeroom teacher isn't just resentful of the wealthy, she's downright unhinged. No wonder she was so determined to make me Xiaowei's personal cash cow. But seeing the homeroom teacher acting so self-righteous, I suddenly had an idea. Teacher, you're absolutely right. Our family's awareness is low, yours is high, so why don't you go show some warmth and support to Xiaowei's family? That would make everyone happy. Besides, you're the homeroom teacher. When a student has a problem, you bear the primary responsibility, so the apologies and compensation should really come from you. That's right. How could I have been so stupid before? For 2 lifetimes now, this person has only known how to gaslight us, never giving anything of themselves. The homeroom teacher's face stiffened. Xiaowei doesn't need school assistance. It was out of respect for her that I asked you classmates to help. Seeing that we were completely unmoved and having heard what I said, Xiaowei's parents had already set their sights on the homeroom teacher. Mr. Wu, thank you so much. Seeing how much you care for Kaiwei puts our minds at ease. Xiaowei, if you ever have any problems in the future, be sure to talk to Mr. Wu. Xiaowei still wore a stubborn expression, but her eyes turned to the homeroom teacher. Mom, Dad, I'll fight for what I want myself. I don't need anyone's charity. Hearing those words, identical to what she'd said in my past life, I couldn't help but curl my lip in disdain. I'd like to see how she's going to argue her case with the homeroom teacher in this lifetime. 7. After that, everything went smoothly for me. After transferring to class 1, my current homeroom teacher is much more reasonable than Mr. Wu. She is wholeheartedly dedicated to creating an excellent learning environment for us and never causes any trouble. The academic atmosphere in the class was incredibly intense, and in that environment, my grades improved even further. I scored first in the entire school on the final mock exam. When Ms. Wu found out, she completely lost it. I heard she went to the grade level head to make a scene, claiming she was the one who taught me and demanding I be returned to class 3. Ever since the grade leader settled that dispute for us, he's had it in for Ms. Wu. Now he won't even give her the time of day, bluntly stating that if she doesn't want to teach properly, they'll find someone else. That finally got Ms. Wu to quiet down. I also switched to being a day student. Not only do I get to go home regularly, but my parents take perfect care of me. Honestly, not having to stay in that dorm room has been such a relief. I'm in a much better mood and I've even put on a bit of weight. It's just that whenever I run into my old roommates, they don't seem to be doing too well. We bumped into each other after dinner that day and chatted for a bit. Bye meow. I'm still so jealous of you for not having to live in the dorms. My place is too far away. Commuting just isn't practical. For me too. I was puzzled. What's the matter? Living on campus is more convenient for studying, isn't that better? Their expressions instantly became complicated. Now we understand why you ignored Xiaowei before. You warned us back then, and we didn't listen. Ugh, what's going on? That can't be right. Last time, Xiaowei seemed to have her sights set on Mr. Wu. How is she causing trouble for others again? They went on. Our homeroom teacher used to ask us to look after her, and we really did our best, but she just took advantage of us. And never showed any gratitude, especially after what happened to you got out. We were really disappointed and started keeping our distance, but then she'd come up to us herself, demanding this and that. If we didn't give in, she'd accuse us of looking down on her, and then the homeroom teacher would force us to apologize. Damn, she's still pulling the same old tricks. Teacher Wu is just passing the buck again, isn't she? Thinking about how things ended for me in my past life, I felt a pang of sympathy and warned them, if it gets too much, just do what I did, transfer to another class or change dorms. The college entrance exam is what really matters. They listened, lost in thought. Later on, word got out that something major had happened in class 3. More than half the students had signed a petition to the principal, demanding the homeroom teacher be replaced. Their complaint was that she was emotionally manipulating students into forcibly helping poorer classmates, which severely disrupted everyone's studies. At a time like this, everything had to make way for the college entrance exams. The principal immediately removed Ms. Wu from her post and told her to stay home for a while. When the notice was issued, Ms. Wu broke down in the staff room, crying and making a scene, until security was called to escort her out. My 2 former roommates eventually managed to switch dorms too. As for Xiaowei, she became genuinely isolated by her classmates. It wasn't exactly bullying. Who had the time for that? Somehow or other, she and Mr. Wu ended up getting together. She was supposed to stay home, but Mr. Wu, using the excuse of looking after Xiaowei, kept coming to school every other day. Seeing she wasn't causing trouble, the principal just told the grade level head to keep an eye on her and make sure she didn't disrupt the other students. Then I saw Mr. Wu, just like my past self, eagerly showering Xiaowei with all sorts of gifts and attention. He even urged her to do well on the exam, to really show up as so-called bad students with poor character. Looking at Xiaowei's stiff expression, I thought, well, we'll just see who ends up looking foolish in the end. After that, I didn't have the luxury of watching the show. Nothing in the world matters more than the college entrance exam. However, I still ran into Xiaowei's family and Mr. Wu when entering the exam hall. Mr. Wu was carrying a bunch of things for Xiaowei, chattering away about who knows what. Xiaowei's parents stood off to the side, looking almost like outsiders. I hadn't planned on going over, but they were blocking the doorway. But the moment I walked over, those people spotted me. Teacher Wu suddenly puffed up with self-importance. By meow. So what if you got first in the mock exams? Grades are just one part of life. What matters most is character. A cold-hearted person like you, who shows no care for your classmates, will never amount to anything. Then he turned to praise Xiaowei. Our Xiaowei is the best, rising to the challenge in adversity. Even though she's from a poor background, she strives hard. Now that's a positive attitude towards life. Xiaowei played along, wearing a proud expression. I paused for a moment, thinking, why pass up a chance to put someone in their place? Teacher Wu, what was Xiaowei's rank in the mock exam again? I remember it was around 100th in the grade, right? That level should be enough for a third-tier college, shouldn't it? Will you be helping out with the tuition fees when the time comes? Then, ignoring Teacher Wu's livid expression and Xiaowei's look of humiliation, I calmly walked into the examination hall. After 3 tense days, I went home and slept like a log. When the results came out, as expected, I didn't just top my school, I became the provincial champion. My house was buzzing for days. When it came time to fill out my college applications, I chose Tsinghua University. I never had the chance in my past life, so making it this time is absolutely worth it. It's just a shame I never got my revenge on Xiaowei for the rotten things she did in a past life. Just when I thought I was finally done with them for good, the day before I was supposed to report to university, my dad said someone was looking for me. Who is it? It's Xiaowei, from your old class 3, senior year. Holy crap, what's this psycho doing here? Dad, I'm not seeing him, this guy's nuts. You be careful too. My dad just smiled and didn't take it seriously, and Sure enough, something bad happened. When we got the call from the hospital, my mom and I were scared out of our wits. We rushed over, and my dad just laughed it off, saying we were making a mountain out of a molehill. Seeing his bandaged arm, my tears started falling instantly. Dad, are you in a lot of pain? That still hurts a bit. Oh, come on, it's just a scratch. Why are you scaring Meow Meow? How did this happen? My mom snapped. Ugh. I regret not listening to Meow Meow. It was that Xiaowei. She went crazy, rushed at me and stabbed me, all the while screaming that it was our fault for not helping her. Is she out of her mind? Where is she? My mom was instantly furious. I was furious too. What kind of person is that? Did they have to come to my house to cause a scene? My dad continued. I kicked him right then and there. He passed out. Then I called the police and they took him away. Later, when the police came to take our statements, we finally felt relieved. Xiaowei's actions constituted assault, while my dad's was just self-defense. Assault doesn't carry a very long sentence. At the time, I wish they'd lock that person up for life, but what the police said next left us a little stunned. 9. It turns out my dad wasn't the first victim. Xiaowei had already stabbed Teacher Wu before him. Teacher Wu wasn't as lucky as my dad and is still unconscious in the ICU. A cold sweat broke out on my back at those words. My mom couldn't help but snap. That Mr. Wu of yours was no saint. But he helped that Xiaowei girl so much back then. How can she be so ungrateful and lose her mind like this? I had a pretty good guess what it was. Nothing more than the same old story from a past life. What happened next confirmed my suspicions. The police came to ask for my help, saying Xiaowei insisted on seeing me or she wouldn't talk. I wanted to know about her and Mr. Wu myself, so I went through the iron bars. I got straight to the point. All right, why did you want to see me? Xiaowei stared at me, her eyes burning. Why are you still alive? You're the one who should be dead. My eyes widened in disbelief. Is she out of her mind? Are you insane, Xiaowei? Do you even realize who you've hurt? Teacher Wu is still in the hospital, and so is my dad. Huh? Teacher Wu, she got what she deserved. If it weren't for her, you would have been the one giving me things back in high school. Your things were always new and nice, not like hers, so stingy and such a phony. The stuff she gave me was all worn out junk, and on top of that, she gaslit me daily into being grateful for it. If it weren't for her, you all wouldn't have distanced yourselves from me. In the end, she made things so unbearable I could hardly stay in my class. My grades dropped, and that's why I only got into a third-tier college. University tuition is so expensive, there's no way my family could afford it. And now, of all times, she refuses to help me out. Where was she all this time? She had to meddle. She had to put on that fake kindness. She deserved to die. She was babbling like a madwoman, seemingly to herself. But what she said sent chills down my spine. Had Xiaowei been reborn too? At that moment, she suddenly rushed forward, reaching her hand through the iron bars. By Meow, was it you? You were reborn long ago, weren't you? So all of this is your doing? Holy shit, she scared me to death. How could I possibly admit to something like that? Are you out of your mind? I just walked away without looking back, ignoring whatever she was shouting behind me. Later, I heard from the police that Xiaowei had gone mad in prison. I don't care if she's really crazy or faking it, just don't let her out. But the trouble outside didn't end with Xiaowei being locked up. She was under 18 when she stabbed someone, still a minor. Both my father and Mr. Wu are owed compensation, and her parents are responsible for it. My father's situation is manageable, but I just can't swallow this injustice, even if Xiaowei's parents were to kneel before us, we'd still demand the compensation we're owed. As for Ms. Wu, it goes without saying, she's facing enormous daily medical bills with little means to cover them herself. Ms. Wu's family members are no pushovers either, but Xiaowei's parents simply can't come up with the money. The two sides go back and forth every day, bickering and squabbling constantly, but none of that is any of my business. Back when our senior classmates were raising funds, I just tossed in $100 for appearances sake. My parents think I'm stingy, but if they knew their daughter had her life ruined by this person's brainwashing in a past life, they wouldn't give a single cent. Although the incident with Xiaowei is over, the online backlash has been intense. A reporter approached me and asked, "By Meow, we heard you were Xiaowei's former deskmate and roommate. Given what's happened to her, what advice would you give to other students?" After careful thought, I've come to just 12 words. Let go of the urge to save others, and respect their own journey. Story 2. My mom caught fish from the sewer and made sashimi out of it. I had just returned home with my college acceptance letter when I witnessed the scene. I immediately snatched the fish away and threw it out, explaining it was contaminated with parasites and unsafe to eat. My parents refused to listen to my explanation and slapped me across the face. "You good-for-nothing leech, just a parasite, I think you can't stand to see Us happy, I'll beat you to death. They rushed at me, punching and kicking until I fell silent, beaten to death by their hands. When I opened my eyes again, I had been reborn on the day my mother was making sashimi. I said with a smile, "This fish looks so nutritious, you should have some more." As soon as I stepped inside, my mom was proudly showing off her catch. What a steal today. Lisa's husband found all these fish while cleaning out the drain, and I immediately asked her for a few. Just look at these fish, I've never seen anything like them. They must be some fancy breed. I glanced at the large, repulsive catfish in the iron basin, its grayish-black skin coated with a layer of slimy fluid. The entire room reeked of its fishy stench. Everything felt hauntingly familiar, just as it had been in my previous life, in that past life, when I returned home with my college admission letter. I saw my mother holding a plate of raw fish slices. I recognized the unprocessed fish head nearby as an invasive species, a giant catfish teeming with parasites, completely inedible. I rushed over to stop them, throwing out the fish along with the basin and bowl. Instead of listening, they responded with furious curses and a brutal beating. The more I tried to explain, the more violently they hit me. Blows and kicks rained down on me while my younger brother shrieked with excitement in the background. They grabbed the heavy ceramic ashtray from the table and smashed it against my head. A searing pain and dizziness exploded through me as warm liquid trickled down my temple, blurring my vision. In the end, they beat me to death, given a second chance at life. I won't interfere this time, since they love fish so much. Let them have their fill. I hid the admission letter I'd just received behind my back and secretly brought it into the room to stash it away. When I came out, my mom had already sliced the catfish thin, arranged it on a plate, and brought it to the table. My brother's eyes lit up as he quickly grabbed a piece and popped it into his mouth. After just a couple of chews, his brow furrowed slightly, and his Adam's apple bobbed as if he was struggling to swallow. "Mom, something tastes off about this. Is this even safe to eat? No wonder it tastes wrong. This thing grew up in the sewers, feeding on garbage and filth every day, even cooked. No one would dare eat it, and now they're actually eating it raw." My dad whacked him on the head with his chopsticks. "You useless fool. Just like a wild boar that can't appreciate fine grain. What do you know? This is sophisticated flavor. This is how wealthy people eat. Just dip it in some soy sauce and wasabi, and it'll taste great. I've seen them eat it this way." He picked up a slice of fish, coated it generously with soy sauce and wasabi, and demonstratively stuffed it into his mouth. Then he gave a thumbs up and kept praising it enthusiastically. My brother hesitantly mimicked his gesture and took a bite. My mom watched him expectantly. "Well, tastes better this time, doesn't it?" My brother gave a nod. I sneered inwardly. Those heavy seasonings were bound to mask certain flavors. With such an overpowering spiciness, you can barely taste anything else. My mother beamed with joy and kept putting food into his bowl. "Fish is good for the brain, and eating it raw is even more nutritious. You should have more. Son, your final exams are in just a couple of days. Come back with good grades. You're the only child in our family, so you must bring honor to us." I stood silently in the corner shadows, watching them. In this house, since I was little, I had to wait until they finished eating before I could scavenge their leftovers. If I ate too much, I'd get beaten, but honestly, I'm grateful. Because of that, I managed to avoid eating that disgusting stuff. Halfway through the meal, my brother deliberately smacked his lips loudly in front of me and said, "Want some? If you do, just pick it up off the floor." He tossed a piece of fish onto the ground, a malicious smirk playing on his lips. The fish fillet was now coated in dust, making it look even more revolting. "Oh, why'd you give it to her? What a waste," my mother scolded half-heartedly, her eyes crinkling with amusement as she made no move to stop him. I stared blankly at the fish on the floor, making no move to retrieve it as I continued chewing on the plain bun in my hand. When she saw I hadn't picked it up to eat, my mother shrieked, "You worthless brat. I give you a chance and you throw it back in my face. I offer you food and you won't even pick it up. Look at your pathetic self. Such good food is wasted on someone like you." Furious, she grabbed a cup nearby and hurled it at me. I couldn't dodge in time, and a shard of glass cut a bloody gash on my forehead. My brother made a mocking face at me, his eyes full of schadenfreude, and then went right back to devouring his food with gusto. My mother picked up the fallen sashimi, rinsed it under the tap, and popped it into her mouth. They kept eating bite after bite as if it were the most delicious delicacy. I fought back the urge to vomit, forcing down the acidic bile rising in my throat. "Mom, you should buy more of this fish for sashimi. I want to bring some to school to make everyone jealous." My brother mumbled through a mouthful of food. My mother beamed with joy, nodding repeatedly. "Wonderful. From now on we'll have sashimi every day and live like royalty." A blood-curdling scream tore through the midnight silence. Hearing the noise, I sat up from the floor. Completely alert, without a trace of sleepiness in my eyes, when I arrived, my younger brother was clutching his stomach and writhing incessantly on the bed. My mother was frantically pacing around in a panic. I put on my faded, washed-out coat and asked them, "Mom, Dad, Felix, what's going on? Do you need me to go buy some medicine?" My arrival was like a lit fuse, instantly igniting all of my father's pent-up anxiety and rage. He whipped his head around, spraying spit as he yelled, "Then what the hell are you standing there for? Quit gawking like a wooden post, get the hell out and buy the medicine now." He pulled out a few crumpled bills and tossed them at me impatiently. "Useless burden, all you ever do is ask for money." A torrent of vile insults rained down upon me. Ignoring him out of habit, I picked up the money from the floor and walked out the door. The cold night wind picked up, making the wound on my temple throb with a dull ache as I wandered slowly down the road. I walked to the 24-hour pharmacy at the end of the alley, saw the bright lights inside, but didn't go in. I stood in the shadows by the entrance for a while, figuring the timing was about right. I went in and, without even describing the symptoms, asked for the strongest painkiller they had. It would have been pointless to explain, only I knew this was no ordinary stomachache. No medicine could cure it. Painkillers were the only relief. When I got home, my brother was still writhing and moaning in bed, pale-faced and sweating, with my mother sitting anxiously beside him. My father snatched the bag forcefully, glaring at me fiercely. "I asked you to buy medicine. What took so long? What have you been doing?" I timidly replied. "The clerk said this one works, but it was the last bottle." She searched forever to find it. My mother quickly poured water and gave my brother the medicine I bought. She turned to my father with concern and asked, "Could there be something wrong with that fish?" My father slammed the table and stood up. "Nonsense, we all ate it and we're fine, aren't we? He's too young and hasn't had raw or cold food before. This is perfectly normal." Breaking the tension, I interjected softly, "It probably isn't the fish. Mom and Dad, both of you ate it and you're fine. Besides, that fish looked expensive. It couldn't possibly be the problem. There's a nasty stomach bug going around. Your brother probably just caught a chill. Some medicine should fix him right up." My parents exchanged a glance, the tension visibly easing from their faces as they accepted my explanation. My mother tucked the blanket snugly around my brother, murmuring, "Some medicine and a good sleep will set you right." I'd never seen such tenderness from her before. From the day I was born, all I'd ever received was resentment. The moment I was born and they saw I was a girl, they carried me out and dumped me in the trash. But a passerby found me soon after and brought me back to them. Realizing they couldn't get rid of me, they started making me do all the housework, cooking, cleaning, everything. Beatings and scoldings became routine. I was less a daughter and more a free punching bag. After I was murdered, they tossed my body into the wilderness to be devoured by beasts, then went right back to their picture-perfect lives. That's why in this life I've stopped yearning for so-called family bonds. I just want to survive. My younger brother took the painkiller, and as his discomfort eased slightly, he drifted into a fitful sleep with soft whimpers. I retreated to my corner, a silent smirk curling my lips in the darkness. "Just sleep it off," as if that would work. "This is only the beginning." They finished all the fish Lena gave them in under 2 days. "I'll go ask Lena for more. She's got plenty of fish left." My mom eagerly went out with a basin. Before long, she returned fuming with anger. Seeing the empty basin in my mom's hands, my dad frowned. "Didn't you go to get the fish? Where is it?" She plopped down on a stool in a huff. "That old lady wouldn't give it to me. They kept saying the fish was full of parasites and would kill us if we ate it. Refused to give it to me no matter what. They didn't even bother making up a convincing lie, treating me like a 3-year-old, as if I'd believe that nonsense." She grew angrier with every word, spitting viciously on the ground. "Bullshit, what a load of crap. They're just being greedy now that they've had a taste. Fine, if they won't share. We'll sneak into the drainage ditch tonight and catch our own." That night, my parents shuffled out of bed, grabbed a large metal basin, and slipped out with a flashlight and a net. I slept on the frigid storeroom floor, with nothing but a thin, tattered cloth beneath me. The storage room had no door, just a tattered curtain that allowed me to see what was happening outside. They didn't return until daybreak, covered in mud, struggling to carry something in between them. It looked like a good haul. A large basket filled with at least a few dozen fish. "We've hit the jackpot," my mother panted, her voice hushed but trembling with barely contained excitement. "I can't believe there were so many hiding in that ditch, all bunched up together like a bunch of fools." My dad was completely worn out too. He set down the metal basin and wiped the sweat and mud from his face. "The smell is just too strong. It's giving me a splitting headache." My mom immediately got worked up again. "That Lena is just awful. She had all these fish but deliberately kept them from us, trying to hog them all for herself. Well, serves her right, we don't need them anymore, we'll have plenty of fish to eat from now on. They were so excited all night, they couldn't stop grinning. At breakfast, to my surprise, my mother scooped out several pieces of fish and placed them in a bowl before handing it to me. Before I could even process it, her eyes were like two icy daggers, piercing straight through me. Her voice was utterly devoid of warmth, carrying only a naked threat. I'm warning you, don't you dare tell anyone we're eating fish from the sewer. If I find out you've breathed a word of this to anyone, I'll skin you alive. She spat out those last words through gritted teeth. It suddenly clicked. No wonder they were so generous today, giving me their precious sashimi. They just wanted me to keep their secret. They're afraid I'll tell others and someone will snatch their fish too. They can rest easy. Let those pests have the fish. I wouldn't wish that on anyone else. My brother yelled in protest. Mom, why are you feeding that worthless girl? She doesn't deserve to eat this. It should be mine alone. He struggled to snatch the fish back. My father glared and stopped him. We have plenty of fish now. She can have these few pieces. When the fish was placed before me, the overpowering fishy smell made me instinctively recoil. It's happening. Realizing I had overreacted, I quickly put on an obedient demeanor. Mom, such precious food should be for you. All the good things belong to you. I don't deserve them. I'll just have a steamed bun. Being full is more than enough for me. My mother turned her head to look at me. The ferocity on her face gradually settled, transforming into an almost satisfied scrutiny. Now that's more like something a decent human being would say. At least I didn't waste my mercy all those years ago when I decided not to toss you in the trash and let you live. I froze for a second, even though I was used to this kind of talk. Hearing it still made me feel a pang of hurt I couldn't control. That evening when my younger brother came home from school, he just threw his lunchbox on the floor. Fish and rice scattered everywhere, splattering all over the place. An indescribable smell instantly filled the air, a mix of fishy odor and some subtly sour, rotten scent. Mom, what on earth is this stuff you packed for me? They're saying the fish I brought is smelly and disgusting, and that it's not even real sashimi. My mother frowned with clear displeasure. What would a bunch of country bumpkins know about fine food? They're just jealous you get to enjoy such high-quality sashimi. I quietly walked to the corner, picked up a broom, and started cleaning up the mess. What is this if not sashimi? Look at your father. He's been so much more energetic since eating it. I scoffed inwardly. My father certainly had been energetic lately these past few days. His trips to the bathroom had noticeably increased. Sometimes I could even hear his hurried footsteps in the middle of the night, but I didn't say anything more. My younger brother hesitated, asking with a mix of doubt and curiosity, but Max said the sashimi his parents give him doesn't look like this. He told me he's never seen grayish-white sashimi like mine before. Margaret's pupils contracted almost imperceptibly. The next second, her tone turned resolute, brimming with the pride of someone revealing a hidden truth. That's just artificially farmed stuff, pumped full of dyes. It's bad for your health if you eat too much. Ours here, this is the real mark of pure, wild-caught quality, no additives or questionable ingredients. Max's parents are fooling him, passing off cheap imitations as real sashimi. What we have is the genuine article, a rare variety. My brother's face lit up with a triumphant glow, all traces of his earlier humiliation vanishing as an urgent need to prove himself took over. Then I'll bring it again tomorrow. I want to show them we can eat sashimi every single day. Of course, dear, I'll cut the most beautiful slices for you tomorrow. My mother beamed with delight, as if she'd just won some major victory. Early in the morning, she cheerfully handled the fish in the kitchen. Humming an off-key tune, she deliberately sliced the fish thinly, arranged them into a flower shape, and placed them in my brother's lunchbox. Today, I'm going to make those little rascals' jaws drop, she mused, admiring her handiwork with satisfaction. Suddenly, a loud noise shattered the tranquility. Open the door, open it right now. A woman's furious roar came from outside, accompanied by pounding so violent it seemed about to shatter the door. The sound was so loud it made the doorframe tremble. I opened the door, but before I could say a word, a woman charged forward and nearly collided with me. I demand an explanation from you today. The commotion drew neighbors over, and several were already gathered in the hallway, craning their necks to see what was happening. My son started having stomach pains right after eating the sashimi from your place yesterday. We took him to the hospital and found out it's a parasitic infection. She waved the medical report from the hospital visit, adding, the doctor said it was caused by eating contaminated food. My expression shifted slightly as I glanced at my mom. My younger brother hid behind her and whispered, Max said my sashimi tasted different from what he'd had yesterday. We got into an argument, so I shoved a piece into his mouth. My mom froze for a second, then exploded like a firecracker that had just been lit. Her voice was several decibels louder than Max's mom's. That's bullshit. My son only eats premium imported fish. Your kid probably got sick from eating some random garbage and now you're trying to pin it on me. Max's mother let out a scornful laugh as if she'd just heard the joke of the century, raising her voice even higher. You call that premium? Who knows what filthy gutter you fished that thing out of? The doctor confirmed it was caused by contaminated raw food. It's definitely your fish that's the problem. I struggled to suppress my laughter. She actually hit the nail on the head. That fish really did come straight out of a sewer drain. My mother flew into a rage, stunned by the accusation that hit too close to home. Where's your proof that it was our food that made him sick? How do you know it wasn't something you fed your own son? If you ask me, you're just trying to shake us down. She planted her hands on her hips and started loudly summoning the people around her. Everyone, come and see this, be the judge. His son snatched the sashimi I brought for my boy, then he goes home, gets a stomachache from God knows what, probably a parasite, and now they come demanding answers from me. Her voice was shrill and grating. The onlookers, who had no idea what was really going on, quickly got swept up by my mom's narrative and started pointing fingers at Max's mother. Someone muttered under their breath, exactly, she brought snacks for her own kid, and your son had to go and snatch them. Who's really to blame here? Probably just here to scam some money. At her age, how can she have the nerve to pull something like this? For all we know, her kid got sick from something she gave him, and now she's trying to pin it on someone else. With the support from those around her, my mom became even more brazen. If you have kids, you'd better remember her and keep your children away from hers. If something happens to her son one day, you'll end up like me, getting blamed for it. Max's mother was so angry her face turned bright red, and it took her a long moment to choke out a single sentence. Then tell me where you bought this fish, and I'll go confront the seller. Hearing this, my mother's unreasonable demeanor instantly deflated. She avoided eye contact, visibly flustered. Why should I tell you? Her voice noticeably weakened. Your son chose to eat it himself. My son ate the same thing and he's fine. If your son got sick, that's his own problem. No one else is to blame. As if afraid Max's mother would press further, my mom slammed the door shut, cutting her off completely. The noise outside continued unabated. My mother stood rooted to the spot, chest heaving, her face alternating between flushed and pale, clearly still shaken. I stepped forward and feigned comfort. Mom, don't worry too much. Her son probably ate something that didn't agree with him. It's got nothing to do with us. Just ignore her. She shot me an annoyed glare. No kidding, it's not the fish's fault. She's just a shrew. What does it have to do with me if she gave her son the wrong thing to eat? Though her words were defiant, the fear on her face gave her away. She was restless all afternoon and didn't calm down until my dad came home that evening, when she finally told him what happened. Gordon, you don't think there's actually something wrong with that fish, do you? Last time Felix ate it, he had the same reaction and still hasn't fully recovered. My father snapped. That's absolute nonsense. Her kid is just being overly sensitive, doesn't deserve to eat something this good anyway. What got sick from eating it? She's just trying to scam us now that our family's doing better. I've seen plenty of these lowlifes before. 3. If it were really as bad as she claims, we'd all be dead by now after eating so much of it. But look at us, we're perfectly fine. Aren't we? I let out a soft chuckle. Their bodies were already riddled with ailments. It's just that the symptoms haven't fully manifested yet, like a ticking time bomb, counting down to the moment of detonation. A few days later, my parents also began showing mild symptoms, but they all chalked it up to weather changes or stomach flu. They absolutely refused to consider that prized premium sashimi they were so proud of. My younger brother's condition kept fluctuating. During the meal, he was doubled over with stomach pain and tearfully said he never wanted to eat sashimi again. My mom snapped at me. This is nutritious. You need brain food. You have to rank in the top 10 for your finals. She firmly placed a few more slices of raw fish into his bowl that night. My younger brother developed a fever, his body burning up, followed by severe vomiting and diarrhea. He even vomited strands of yellow-green bile. He cried out in pain from the muscle aches, joint pain, and headache all over his body. At first it was just a slight fever, but before long his temperature had soared past 40 degrees. None of the medications we gave him worked. His fever kept climbing relentlessly. Gordon, come quick, something's wrong with Felix. Mom's voice cracked with unmistakable panic and tears. She kept dabbing his forehead and body with a cold towel. My dad was in no condition to help anyone else himself, clutching his stomach and making constant trips to the bathroom, his face unnaturally pale. He brushed it off casually. It's just a fever, no big deal, probably a bad case of stomach flu. If it doesn't get better, we can take him to the hospital tomorrow. My mom grew anxious. Why wait until tomorrow? Get the car now and take us there. My dad snapped impatiently. Going now is pointless. The hospital will just prescribe some medicine that won't even cure it. He took the thermometer from his younger brother and held it up to my mom's face. See, the fever's already gone down, eh? Few degrees, it's nothing serious, so stop overreacting. The reading had indeed dropped by 0.1 degrees, but it was still around 40 degrees. My mother leaned in, squinted, and deluded herself as she agreed. Yes, it does seem a tiny bit lower. The red part isn't as long now. Maybe the medicine is just starting to work. Late at night, I was jolted awake by some noise but didn't get up right away. It wasn't until my parents' groans became distinctly audible that I sluggishly made my way out of the room. The moment I stepped inside, the sight that greeted me was utterly revolting. An indescribable stench permeated the entire room. My parents lay twisted on the bed, limbs contorted, surrounded by a foul mixture of vomit and excrement. My younger brother was in the worst state, barely able to make a sound as he convulsed weakly. I stood frozen, watching their agonizing struggle with a blank expression. The memory of being beaten to death in my past life flashed through my mind, vivid as yesterday. My father saw me come in and weakly cursed, "You little brat, what are you standing there for? Get me to the hospital now." My mother had already lost consciousness and collapsed to the side. "Help," my brother moaned weakly, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Ignoring him, I picked up a nearby stool and placed it by the door. I sat in the chair, watching the tragedy they had brought upon themselves unfold step by step. Only when the others had nearly lost consciousness did I rise, walk to the doorway, and take a deep breath of the crisp night air. I froze for a moment. Calmly, I picked up the phone and dialed the emergency number. The ambulance arrived quickly, loaded them inside, and rushed them to the hospital. The emergency room lights glared an unsettling red, while the clock on the wall ticked away with agonizing slowness. Alone on a plastic chair in the corridor, I breathed in the stale air, the sharp scent of disinfectant doing little to mask the underlying odors of blood and vomit. The emergency room doors swung open, and a doctor emerged with a grave expression. "Is the patient's family here?" I stepped forward and replied, "I am." His piercing eyes scrutinized me. "What happened? Why did it take so long to bring the patient in?" His voice was sharp, brimming with suppressed anger. "Their organs are almost completely failing. This is no ordinary food poisoning. What on earth did they eat?" I lowered my head and answered timidly, "My parents found a fish in the sewer. They'd never seen one like it before and thought it was some exotic delicacy, so they made sashimi out of it." The doctor's eyes widened in utter disbelief. "Catfish from the sewers are an invasive species. They're crawling with bacteria and parasites, and you dare eat them raw?" I lifted my tear-streaked face, letting a single tear fall at just the right moment. I told them too, that the fish was inedible and full of parasites, but they didn't believe me. They beat me and called me a jinx. I gently pulled up my sleeve, revealing a shocking patchwork of old and new bruises on my arm, along with several gruesome, scabbed-over scars nearby. The doctor's eyes flickered with complex emotions, his anger seeming to subside, replaced by a look of helpless compassion. I grabbed his sleeve and dropped to my knees, pleading, "Please, doctor, I'm begging you, save them. If anything happens to them, I'll have no family left." The doctor's hand lifted slightly, as if to help me up. He said nothing more, just shook his head wearily before turning and rushing back into the emergency room. After he left, I wiped the tears from my face without any expression. I returned to my chair and waited quietly, my mind completely calm, even with a hint of cold mockery. The wait felt incredibly long, and the lights in the corridor flickered on and off. I don't know how much time had passed when the emergency room door opened again. I rushed forward anxiously. The doctor avoided my gaze and said in a low voice, "The situation is very grim. The parasites and toxins in that fish have caused multiple organ failure. We're doing everything we can to stabilize the patient's vital signs. We've done all we can in this situation. You need to prepare for the worst possible outcome." I remained silent, but inwardly I was overjoyed. From the moment they swallowed those raw fish slices contaminated with sewage filth, this outcome was inevitable. I never actually thought they would survive. Putting on this performance here is just for show. Fulfilling the final duty of a dutiful daughter to make everything seem reasonable. They've eaten so much of that fish, toxins and parasites have long seeped deep into their bones. Even if Watua himself were reborn, he couldn't save them. At that moment, the color drained from my face, my lips trembled, and tears fell in big drops. "Doctor, can I go in? I just want to see them. Please, at least let me say one more word to them." The doctor gave me a pitying look, then let out a deep sigh as if conceding defeat, and gave a slight nod. "You can go in and see them now." His voice was heavy with exhaustion, "but be prepared, they don't look much like the people you remember." The hospital room was filled with the steady beeping of machines, with various tubes and wires extending from the 3 beds and connecting to complex equipment. My parents and my brother lay there with ashen, earth-toned complexions, their bodies so swollen they were almost unrecognizable. Their skin was covered in gruesome red blotches and blisters, some of which had ruptured and were oozing a yellowish-white fluid. From my mother's lips quivered slightly, and I could still sense the sheer agony behind that movement. My father and younger brother were in even worse shape. His entire body would occasionally convulse with spasms. The medical staff were busy in the distance, giving me a few moments of uninterrupted time for my goodbye. I walked to their bedside and quietly watched them struggle in agony. Their last shred of sanity fading. "I told you so," I whispered, my voice barely audible even to myself. "That fish was poisonous, but you refused to believe me. Not only did you tear up my college acceptance letter, you beat me to death, and now you're getting exactly what you deserve." My father's throat emitted a strange gurgling sound as his eyes widened in terror. The heart rate monitor suddenly went haywire, blaring a shrill alarm. Medical staff rushed over and began emergency procedures, while I was asked to leave the room. Despite working through the night, they couldn't pull through the window at the end of the hospital corridor. The first light of dawn was breaking. The morning sun shone on me, warm and bright. I quietly handled the funeral arrangements, holding on to the college acceptance letter I had hidden away. Sunlight streamed through the window, falling on my acceptance letter and casting a golden glow over it. While cleaning out that so-called home, I found a tightly wrapped bank passbook in a worn-out wooden box under my parents' bed. It wasn't just their savings in there, it also contained the money I'd painstakingly saved for my education. I knew they wouldn't fund my college education. I understood this from the very beginning, so I started working day and night, never shying away from hard labor. But to my surprise, on payday they went to the boss ahead of time and took all the wages I'd worked months to earn. At that thought, I clutched the bank book so tightly my fingertips turned white. Without hesitation, I stuffed the bankbook into my pocket and turned away from that place filled with painful memories. Standing at the long-distance bus station, I took one last look at the place I'd called home for 18 years, past and present. All is settled. Story 2. I was the purest-blooded princess of the Phoenix clan. On my coming-of-age ceremony, before thousands of clansmen, my true form manifested, not as a glorious phoenix, but as a pitiful, lowly black serpent. Yet the jade rabbit I'd rescued transformed into a radiant phoenix, worshipped by the entire clan as the divine phoenix. Branded an impure half-breed, I plummeted from divine grace into the muck. My divine father declared the jade rabbit as his long-lost bloodline, then personally summoned heavenly lightning that flayed me alive. My own brother gouged out the core of this half-breed, my spiritual essence, as compensation for the jade rabbit's years of exile. My childhood sweetheart, the man I was betrothed to, embraced the jade rabbit in his arms as they whispered vows of devotion. Left barely breathing, I was cast by the jade rabbit's own hand into the celestial pool, its waters lethal to gods, where my soul dissolved into nothingness. Even in death, I couldn't comprehend why my true form manifested as a lowly black serpent when I possessed the purest phoenix bloodline. When I opened my eyes again, I'd been reborn on the eve of my coming-of-age ceremony. "Your Highness, the 100-feather gown for tomorrow's ceremony has arrived." The Emperor also prepared a phoenix hairpin. "They say the combination will be absolutely stunning." As Peach spoke, she couldn't resist stealing glances at the magnificent feathered gown. The feathers of 100 rare birds were woven with golden threads into a resplendent feathered gown. Her eyes filled with longing as she reached out to touch it. "The Phoenix clan hasn't crafted a feathered gown in millennia," she murmured. "It's even more breathtaking than legends say." Those familiar words sent a violent shudder through my body. The agony of heavenly lightning flaying my flesh and the brutal extraction of my core still burned fresh in my memory. My eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Could this be a rebirth in my past life? I was overjoyed when I received this phoenix feather gown. Since the fall of our mother goddess, not a single new phoenix has been born in our clan for millennia. My people have placed all their hopes upon me, for I am the only offspring of the phoenix goddess and golden dragon god, the purest-blooded princess of the Phoenix clan. On the eve of my coming-of-age ceremony, the entire Phoenix clan pooled their resources to present me with the sacred feather gown, symbolizing my Phoenix heritage. I couldn't tear myself away from its beauty, eagerly donning the feather gown for my rite of passage. Before the eyes of countless clansmen, when I revealed my true form, I actually transformed into a pitch-black snake. The crowd gasped in horror. My divine father darkened his expression. "Juno, this is no time for games at such a crucial moment. Show your true form at once." Stunned myself, I writhed in serpentine coils, desperately channeling my magic. Yet no matter how many times I tried, I remained nothing but a black snake. Just as I channeled my magic for the 99th time, a crystalline phoenix cry pierced the heavens. I stared dumbfounded. It was the very moon rabbit I'd rescued with my own hands. Her body erupted in golden radiance as iridescent feathers materialized. She was transforming into a phoenix. The crowd prostrated themselves, worshipping the rabbit as a divine phoenix while branding me an impure-blooded mongrel. With tears welling in my eyes, I turned to gaze upon the Heavenly Father. To my shock, he wept openly while looking at the jade rabbit. To think my true son Onyx wandered the mortal realm for millennia, While some vile low-born serpent usurped his identity, this is utterly unconscionable, with a mere flick of his wrist. He summoned celestial lightning that tore through my flesh, leaving me a bloody, mangled wreck amidst my agonized screams. My brother Hayden personally carved up my golden core and presented it to the Jade Rabbit as a welcoming gift. My poor sister, let me offer you this imposter's core. Though its bloodline is base, it might amuse you as a trinket, bleeding out in a pool of my own blood. I cast one last hopeful glance at my betrothed, Frost, crown prince of the celestial clan we'd cultivated together since childhood, inseparable companions. Surely he would. Onyx, you're a true phoenix after all. Now we can be together without hiding. Frost, who always maintained an aloof demeanor, was actually smiling as he cradled the Jade Rabbit in his arms. At this very moment, I'm enduring agony that sears my bones and scorches my soul. Onyx flashed me a triumphant grin before personally shoving me into the celestial pool, a place even gods fear to tread. The razor-sharp gales sliced through my flesh, leaving wounds so deep my bones were visible. Nothing compares to this heartache. In my last conscious moment, I still saw the golden phoenix light erupting from my bones. Till death I couldn't understand, with the purest phoenix bloodline in my veins, why did my true form manifest as a lowly black serpent? The agony of my past life remains vivid before my eyes. In this lifetime, I will uncover the truth no matter what. Just like in my past life, I smiled and accepted the 100-feather skirt, but the moment I lowered my head, a cold glint flashed through my eyes. Peach had served me for thousands of years, and she was also the first to discover the Jade Rabbit. Out of kindness I saved the Jade Rabbit's life, only to die with bitter regret in the end. In my past life, it must have been Peach and the Jade Rabbit conspiring together that caused my death, suppressing my murderous intent. I casually made up an excuse to send Peach away. I've heard snow lotuses grow on the mountain peaks. Fetch some for me. Peach's gaze faltered, panic flashing across her face. Your Highness, your coming-of-age ceremony is tomorrow. How could I possibly leave for the snow mountains at such a time? My expression turned glacial as an oppressive aura radiated from my entire being, my icy stare pinning her in place. You will obey my command without question. Trembling under the ancestral pressure coursing through her veins, Peach collapsed to her knees, rendered completely speechless. She could only keep kowtowing to me frantically. With a wave of my hand, golden-hued magic forcibly ejected her. Were it not for our millennial-old bond, I'd have executed her on the spot. Yet lacking concrete evidence, I still harbor an inexplicable hesitation toward Peach. I'll kill her after uncovering the truth. There's no rush. Tossing the feathered skirt aside, I strode out of the bedchamber. After rummaging through the archives for hours, I finally unearthed a bloodline detection ritual. I wonder if the Jade Rabbit has tampered with my bloodline by now. I decided to run a quick test first. Following the ancient ritual described in the tome, I flicked my right wrist and a crimson gold phoenix feather materialized in my palm. This was one of the few genuine phoenix feathers my divine mother left me after her fall. A dagger appeared in my left hand, then reversed its grip before plunging straight toward my chest. Dripped 3 drops of heart's blood onto the phoenix feather, then set it ablaze. Amidst the flames, faint crimson gold flickers appeared as blood and feather turned to ash, filling the air with a sweet, ethereal fragrance. The moment the fire died out, a golden phoenix silhouette emerged from the embers. I stood transfixed as tears began to fall. This proves I am truly the daughter of the Mother Goddess, with phoenix blood coursing through my veins. After enduring slander and slaughter, I now know with certainty my true form could never be some lowly black serpent. Juno, are you in there? The door rattled with Frost's voice behind it. Bitterness welled up in my heart, yet I deliberately softened my voice. Frost, could you do something for me? Frost looked puzzled but complied without question, turning to leave without even asking why. When he returned, he handed me a tuft of rabbit fur and a small jade-green vial containing unmistakable drops of heart's blood. I thanked him, and Frost gazed at me, the usually aloof immortal's eyes now brimming with tenderness. He raised his hand as if to tousle my hair, then withdrew it with a shy murmur. Juno, after your coming-of-age ceremony tomorrow, we can be wed. Gazing at Frost's devoted expression, I felt momentarily dazed. The man who discarded me like trash in our past life now burns with affection. Which version reveals Frost's true nature? Ice filled my heart as I bid him a hollow farewell. I shut the door and eagerly dripped the Jade Rabbit's heart blood onto the phoenix feather before igniting the flames. Amidst the fire, a pure white glow flickered faintly as the blood and feather burned to ashes. Instead of the previous sweet fragrance, a foul stench now filled the air. The moment the flames died out, the vision within became clear, and what I saw left me utterly stunned. It's actually a phoenix too. Onyx really is a phoenix, but the goddess only bore me as her daughter. By all rights, I should be the only phoenix in existence. What in the world is going on? I stormed out with a dark expression, utterly baffled by the reason. With the coming-of-age ceremony approaching, am I doomed to relive the misery of my past life. Dazed and distracted, I bumped straight into someone on the road. Juno, you seem really unsettled. What's going on? I looked up and saw my brother Hayden, his eyes filled with concern as he reached for my arm. Are you feeling unwell? Tell me, I'll get you some herbal medicine. His caring expression was just like when we were children, when I first gained consciousness in my fledgling years. The mother goddess had already fallen, and the father god became a broken man, wandering abroad perpetually. It was my elder brother who shouldered the Phoenix clan's burdens, managing tribal affairs while raising me single-handedly. The first magic I mastered, the first gown I ever owned, all gifts from his hands. He nurtured me with such devotion, pouring his entire being into spoiling me until I became the undisputed little princess of the Phoenix clan. Yet it was he who personally carved out my core essence, watching me writhe in agony, watching my spirit break. Hayden merely presented the bloodied core to the jade rabbit with reverence. He declared, only a phoenix of onyx's pure lineage deserves to be my sister. Remembering my past life, I fought to steady my trembling hands and flashed Hayden a saccharine smile. Brother, I can't stand that jade rabbit. Would you kill her for me? Without a moment's hesitation, Hayden charged at Onyx with his sword drawn. Her face was pale with panic, tears welling in her eyes as she pleaded, Your Highness, what are you doing? Hayden struck out with a palm strike so fierce that the sheer force sent Onyx coughing up blood. Blood trickled from Onyx's lips as she lay sprawled on the ground, her voice trembling with pitiful vulnerability. Your Highness, Princess, has Onyx done something wrong? She deliberately raised her voice, drawing the attention of bystanders. Watching the growing crowd gather, I couldn't suppress a cold sneer. Ever since the day I saved Onyx, she's been putting on this pitiful act, claiming her true form as a jade rabbit. Out of kindness, I took her to Phoenix Realm to recuperate. Along the way, I discovered we shared the same birthday, which delighted me so much I treated her like a sister. Yet in the end, it was she who personally pushed me into the jade pool, condemning me to eternal damnation. I watched the scene unfold with morbid fascination, eagerly anticipating the moment Hayden would end her life. Hayden coldly raised his sword, the blade pressing against Onyx's chest. In that fateful moment, the Divine Father materialized instantly, deflecting Hayden's sword with a sweep of his hand as he thundered, as young masters of the Phoenix clan, how dare you slaughter the innocent so wantonly? What crime has she even committed? With the Divine Father backing her, the onlookers began pointing fingers at Hayden, their murmurs quickly drowning out the two of us. I sighed inwardly. With the Divine Father protecting Onyx, there was no way I could kill her today. Masking my true feelings, I stepped forward with a sweet smile. Don't be angry, Father. Brother was just teasing Onyx. Seeing the Divine Father hesitate, I quickly added, but Onyx is a moon rabbit after all, and her injuries have healed. It's hardly proper for her to linger in the Phoenix realm indefinitely. With an innocent expression, I turned to Onyx. Today, I shall escort you out of Phoenix Dominion. A hush fell over the crowd. The Phoenix clan had always been xenophobic. It was only through my insistence that Jade Rabbit had been permitted entry in the first place. Her departure now was only natural. The Divine Father gritted his teeth and conceded, very well, you personally oversee her safe passage. No harm must come to her. I nodded in acknowledgement and personally escorted Onyx to the border of Phoenix Domain. The moment I pushed her through the barrier, Onyx suddenly turned back and flashed me a grin. Juno, you've been reborn too, haven't you? If I could scatter your soul to the winds in our past life, this incarnation will be no different. Did you really think banishing Peach and then me would make tomorrow's coming-of-age ceremony foolproof? Just wait, I can't wait to see your expression when you turn into that little black serpent, so helpless, so shocked, so pitiful. Onyx enunciated each word while watching my face grow paler. See you tomorrow, little black snake. The moment the words left my lips, Onyx vanished before my eyes. My mind reeled in shock as the blood drained from my face. Could it be Onyx was reborn too? From what she implied, tomorrow I'd still be doomed to transform into that black serpent. A crushing sense of helplessness overwhelmed me. Despite inheriting Supreme Phoenix bloodline, my true form is nothing but a wretched low-tier black serpent. After millennia of devoted cultivation and relentless effort, is this wretched fate all I deserve? Like an inescapable destiny I can never break free from, I wandered through the Phoenix realm like a lost soul, my millennia-straightened spine finally buckling under the weight. My once arrogant face now bore nothing but world-weary resignation. For the first time, the thought of surrender flickered through my mind. After wandering aimlessly through the Phoenix realm for untold hours, I stumbled blindly into a cavern. As night fell outside, I drifted into unconsciousness within. In that moment of descending darkness, a tear traced down my cheek as I faintly murmured, Mother. At dawn the next day, Hayden arrived at the cave entrance with her maidservants and the feathered gown in tow. Juno, the coming-of-age ceremony is about to begin. Why aren't you dressed and ready? No time left. Put on the 100-feather gown now. We must reach the sacred land. I raised my eyes, all shadows vanishing from my face as confidence radiated through my serene smile. We don't need that gown. Let's go. Unless you think we still have time to spare. Ignoring Hayden's protests, I soared toward the Phoenix clan's holy ground, the blazing moon precipice. Crowds from all corners of the realm have gathered today, eager to witness the Phoenix's rebirth and its glorious transformation. As the sea of people surged, I soared to the highest peak of the blazing moon cliff. The Divine Father beckoned with a smile. My child Juno, today marks your coming of age. I shall personally bestow spiritual energy upon you. Raising his hand, a stream of pure azure spiritual energy flowed from his fingertips. With a detached gaze, I observed the pale blue spiritual energy, unique to dragonkind. But was my Divine Father truly a dragon? Sidestepping gracefully, golden energy surged from within me, effortlessly dissolving the azure glow. As sacred chants resonated, the surrounding gazes grew feverish with fervor. I took a deep breath, circulating spiritual energy through my meridians as it gradually cleansed my pathways. A golden light flashed as my true form materialized. Amidst the crowd's gasps, I revealed my true form. The golden radiance slowly faded, replaced by a clear phoenix cry echoing from the blazing moon cliff. The crowd erupted in joy, their eyes locked onto the golden aura surrounding me, but the radiance was so blinding that nothing could be seen clearly. Dark clouds veiled the sky, casting a gloomy pall over the land. Someone suddenly looked up and gasped, "Look at the sky, it's..." The crowd lifted their heads in unison. A colossal phoenix circled overhead, its massive form blotting out the sunlight. The crowd erupted in murmurs as several Phoenix clan elders wept with joy. After millennia, the Phoenix is reborn. Heaven bless our clan, heaven bless us all. Even the typically stoic Frost couldn't suppress a flicker of delight. Hayden couldn't contain his joy as wings burst forth from his shoulder blades. The Phoenix circled 3 times in the sky before gracefully descending. The moment she resumed human form, the surroundings fell silent before erupting into even more animated discussions. Why isn't it Juno? Wasn't today supposed to be Princess Juno of the Phoenix clan's coming-of-age ceremony? Why isn't she a phoenix? She looks familiar. Wait, isn't that the jade rabbit Juno picked up? What was her name? Onyx. Onyx wore a perfectly poised smile, dressed in that feathered gown, her eyes gleaming with barely concealed triumph. She extended her hand, pointing directly toward where I stood. Behold, the so-called princess our Phoenix clan has worshipped for millennia. What a vile creature she truly is. As her finger pointed, the golden radiance shattered, revealing my true form before the crowd, a repulsive, low-born black serpent. Amidst the crowd's shocked gasps, Onyx's lips curled into a cruel smile as phoenix fire coalesced in her palm. On the very day I reclaim my phoenix throne, I shall first slay this bastard who's stolen my identity for years. The sacred phoenix flames came rushing toward me. Scorching heat infused with spiritual energy engulfed everything. True phoenix fire consumes all things, even souls and marrow. I didn't even flinch, letting out a cold laugh as I watched the approaching flames. In this new life, Onyx's desire to kill me has grown utterly unrestrained. Her eyes burned with hatred toward me, brimming with barely contained triumph. Onyx projected her words directly into my mind using spiritual energy. Juno, consumed by phoenix flames, do you really think you'll get a second chance? I let out a soft laugh as scorching flames engulfed me, my entire body igniting. This foolish rabbit still doesn't realize, I'm no black serpent, but an ancient true phoenix. For the primordial phoenix, the first death rewinds time, the second death brings rebirth from ashes. My flesh and blood were completely consumed by Onyx's phoenix flames, yet my spirit hovered midair, sensing the surging spiritual energy from all directions 10,000 miles away. The ancient true phoenix's skeletal remains stirred beneath the snow-capped mountains. I watched the scene at Blazing Moon Cliff with a cold laugh. Gathering strength for my rebirth, a burst of Onyx's phoenix flames consumed me entirely, leaving the ashen moon cliff in stunned silence as everyone believed my soul had been utterly annihilated. Hayden stared blankly at the scorched remains, now nothing but desolation, but then he turned his gaze toward Onyx and demanded, "What the hell just happened?" My Divine Father roared with laughter, his mirth echoing across the ashen moon cliff. I perished on the spot, yet the Divine Father showed no notice, his face radiant with joy. He clapped Onyx's shoulder, eyes brimming with pride and satisfaction. Since Onyx has revealed his true phoenix form before all, the truth is now plain for all to see. Onyx alone carries my bloodline, so pure, so undiluted. Hayden froze in shock, lifting his gaze to the Father God. Father, are you saying Onyx is actually yours and Mother's daughter, my true blood sister? Onyx smiled serenely as she stepped forward to clasp Hayden's hand. Her face radiated pure innocence like an unblemished white flower as she whispered tenderly, "Yes, brother, I'm the true phoenix heir. That Juno stole my identity for over 1,000 years. She's nothing but a vile little black serpent. That wretched species desecrates our phoenix domain just by setting foot here." The term wretched species seemed to strike a chord in Hayden. His furrowed brow relaxed as his tone softened. Yes, yes. My sister Hayden undoubtedly possesses the purest phoenix bloodline. I let out a quiet laugh. Such were my own flesh and blood. Everyone rejoices at Onyx's homecoming, celebrating the birth of a new phoenix in the Phoenix clan. Did anyone spare a single moment to mourn my death, even if I were just a little black snake? I've stood by their side for millennia. Was all that familial love from the past just an illusion, so cold-hearted, so utterly ruthless? Despite the sorrows of my past life, I still felt my eyes stinging with unshed tears. Frost, who'd grown up by my side all these years, was now kneeling on one knee, proposing to Onyx, never one for words. His flushed face now bore an expression of utmost sincerity. "Onyx, you and the Celestial Emperor's daughter were betrothed before birth. Your return to the Wind Throne now feels like heaven-sent fortune. I wish to ask for your hand, Onyx. My heart has long been yours. Would you honor me as the Celestial Crown Princess?" Frost knelt before Onyx with ink-black hair cascading down his spine straight as jade bamboo in a single-knee genuflection. An aura of aristocratic grace emanated from his entire being. Onyx's eyes welled up with tears as she covered her mouth in astonishment, sobbing with joy. "Brother Frost, is this really true?" As Onyx accepted the marriage proposal, the two embraced tenderly while cheers erupted around them. The onlookers beamed with delight, applauding. The Phoenix Princess and the Celestial Prince, what a match made in heaven, others sneered mockingly. That Juno, no wonder she trained so obsessively. Turns out she's just low-born trash afraid of being exposed. Pa, a lowly black snake dreaming of becoming a phoenix. What a joke, what a despicable wretch. I stood frozen, watching as all those once friendly, fawning faces turned against me. Seeing me terrified wasn't enough. They'd gladly stomp me into the mud themselves. How dare they? Why should my diligent cultivation become their ammunition against me? What does it matter if my lineage is humble? I've never judged others by bloodline. How dare they use this against me now? My eyes gradually turned bloodshot as a single tear fell. The fury in my heart is consuming me like wildfire. Beneath the snow-capped mountains, the phoenix bones soared skyward, gradually coalescing into a skeletal form between heaven and earth. A pair of warm hands cupped my face, gently wiping away my tears. Mother, mother. The moment I recognized the figure before me, tears burst forth uncontrollably as I broke into loud sobs. I never shed a tear through all of it, the unjust death, the betrayal, the siege of humiliation. Yet now, with mother simply wiping away my tears, I wept with every fiber of my being. A faint silhouette cradled me, whispering comfort. "Juno, don't cry. The bloodline of the ancient phoenix has awakened. Go forth and do what you must. Remember what I told you in the cave last night. Show no mercy to those who've wronged you." Her spectral form grew translucent as she kissed my forehead, thrusting my soul into the phoenix's skeletal frame. With a final wave of her hand, she spoke her parting words. "Juno, Mommy loves you." My soul clung to the phoenix's skeletal remains. The bleached bones began regenerating flesh anew, until the very moment my spirit became one with it. A golden light erupted from my body as the fundamental laws governing all creation flooded my mind in an instant. Squinting, I watched those visions flash before my eyes. So, Onyx truly was the daughter of the Divine Father. I too am the Divine Father's daughter. Our Divine Father was never a golden dragon. His true form was merely a black serpent. Yet my mother, the last phoenix in existence, fell irrevocably in love with him. She willingly sacrificed half her spiritual core to cultivate his power, transforming him into a golden dragon. They wed without incident, conceiving me after Hayden was born. At the brink of childbirth, she discovered the Celestial Father's affair with a jade rabbit. Heartbroken, she suffered a difficult labor and brought me into this world. Before I could awaken my spiritual consciousness, she grew frail and perished. Then the daughter of the Celestial Father and the Jade Rabbit was born. They named her Onyx, driven by selfish motives. My father swapped our core essences and paved a golden path for Onyx. He awaited this coming-of-age ceremony to enshrine Onyx upon the Phoenix altar. As the truth unfolded before me, my eyelids slowly closed. When they opened again, my gaze held no warmth, only glacial emptiness. Dark clouds now choked the sky, their growling thunder shaking the air. A blinding streak of light pierced the heavens like a divine sword thrusting toward the firmament. A crystalline phoenix cry echoed across the skies above Moonburn Cliff. Countless birds converged from all directions as flowers burst into bloom across the land. Sacred chants resounded through the skies as the primordial phoenix descended upon Moonburn Cliff. Encircled by 100 birds, in an instant, everyone present felt the Primal pressure coursing through their veins, the Phoenix clansmen immediately dropped to their knees, while others from across the realms fared slightly better, though their legs trembled violently as they struggled to remain standing. Hayden, my closest blood relative, felt it most acutely and could no longer lift his head, prostrating himself completely. I descended like a deity. The primordial deity, with his profound cultivation, was the first to recognize my face. His expression turned ashen as he gasped, "Juno, but weren't you incinerated by Onyx's phoenix true flame?" I let out a cold laugh as divine lightning descended from the heavens, striking him down. "How dare a faithless wretch like you utter the sacred name of the ancient true phoenix?" This heavenly thunder was unlike what he summoned in his past life. It was the wrath of the heavens, a divine rainbow lightning strike. With just one strike, it shattered the father god's millennia of cultivation in an instant. Clutching his chest, he let out a pained groan as blood trickled from his lips, his eyes wide with disbelief. "The primordial phoenix, you're actually the primordial phoenix." No wonder he was stunned. The 4 legendary divine beasts had vanished eons ago, and the world hadn't witnessed a true celestial beast's descent in ages. But a 9-colored golden lightning streaked across the sky, striking him with pinpoint accuracy. I lifted my gaze, voice icy. "I told you, you're unworthy." The divine bolt instantly reduced him to his true form. With a flick of my hand, my mother's inner core flew from his body into my palm. Stripped of the phoenix core, he instantly transformed from a golden dragon into a pitch-black serpent, exposed in his true form. The black serpent burned with shame under the crowd's astonished gazes, wishing the ground would swallow him whole. I cast him a cold glance. For creatures like him, being dethroned from divinity was a fate worse than death. Hayden stared at me in stunned silence, his face a mask of disbelief. "Luo, you," having learned from the Divine Father's mistake, he dared not speak my true name. Yet as I gazed at Hayden, the hatred in my heart burned fiercer still. My voice still carried that same detached tone when I spoke. "Hayden, speak plainly. I'm giving you this one chance to say your piece." Hayden's eyes lit up with joy as he exclaimed, "Little sister, I knew you couldn't possibly be one of those vile black serpents." A murderous glint flashed through my eyes. As expected, bloodline hierarchy means everything to Hayden. His former devotion to me stemmed solely from believing I possessed pure phoenix blood. The moment he learned my true form was a black serpent while Onyx's was a phoenix, he abandoned me without hesitation to curry favor with Onyx. Neither familial bonds nor blood relations hold any significance in Hayden's heart. As long as his sister remains the most noble phoenix, nothing else matters. How utterly revolting. I could bear it no longer. With a sweep of my hand, crimson gold spiritual energy streamed into Hayden's body like wisps of smoke. In an instant, his body erupted in golden light as he collapsed, writhing and howling in agony. I looked down at him with detached calm. "For the sake of our long companionship, though your past offenses were grave, I shall spare your life, yet your punishment remains. I shall extract the noble blood your mother bestowed upon you, reducing you to the black serpent you once so despised." How pitiful. Hayden had always scorned those of inferior bloodlines. Yet fate would have it that we both carried the bloodline of the black serpent. In my past life, when I perished, the black serpent's blood was exhausted, awakening the ancient phoenix bloodline and triggering time's reversal. This lifetime, consumed by Onyx's phoenix flames, I've been reborn through, now truly the primordial phoenix. Hayden screamed in agony as his very essence was torn from him, pleading with me, "Juno, please no. I admit my mistake, don't do this to me." Annoyed by the noise, I waved my hand and flung both him and the Heavenly Father out. An eerie silence fell over the ashen moon cliff, all trembling before my merciless cruelty. My gaze locked onto Onyx's position. She collapsed to the ground, her face deathly pale. When she noticed my gaze, she crawled toward me trembling, then knelt and began kowtowing frantically. "Please, spare me. I was wrong. I swear I was wrong. Punish the Divine Father instead. It's all his fault, all his." I'd had enough of her blubbering. My hand plunged into her consciousness, churning its depths. The agony of a spiritual sea invasion rivals being torn limb from limb. Onyx screamed in torment, howling in unbearable pain. I sneered, "That golden core has been in your possession for 3 millennia. Since when did it become yours, Aarg?" As Onyx's shrieks echoed, I retrieved the crimson core and swallowed it whole. Onyx reverted to her true form, a black rabbit with awakened intelligence but completely drained of spiritual power. I averted my gaze from her and turned to Frost instead. My voice turned icy. "Since you just publicly declared your love for Onyx, our engagement is naturally null and void." I casually grabbed Onyx by the ear and flung him away. "Take your wife and get out of here." Frost stared at me blankly, then blasted Onyx away with spiritual energy before pleading with me. "I was possessed by demons earlier. You know you're the only one I love, Juno. Please forgive this momentary lapse." A bolt of heavenly Lightning struck down toward Frost. He grunted stubbornly, "Juno, I love you." Another bolt of divine lightning struck. With a dismissive wave, my figure vanished from the blazing moon cliff, leaving only these words behind: "Frost, even your father God would kneel before me in reverence. How dare you speak of love? When next we meet, remember to kneel and pay homage. I've wandered the mortal realm for millennia." Word reached me of some old acquaintances. The Hayden father and son were hunted by the Serpent Clan, meeting their end through death by 1,000 cuts. With a darkened expression, Frost dragged Onyx back to the celestial realm, subjecting her to daily torture. He blamed Onyx for ruining his perfect marriage prospect. He could have wed the ancient phoenix and shared supreme glory and divine power. Rumor has it Onyx was turned into a human swine, left to suffer without release in death. The sunlight is just right as I become an ordinary little bird, dozing off on a tree branch. All those toxic people and messy situations from the past are no longer my concern. Story 2. My alumnus in Country M sent me a message. The experimental subjects have initially shown zombie characteristics. It may break out in the near future. At that time, I had finally paid enough Social Security contributions in Washington for 5 years and was about to buy a house. I immediately stopped the pen I was signing with and tore up the house purchase contract. "Sorry, I'm not buying it. Bye. The way, I suggest you stock up on food, enough for a year." I had neither a house nor a car in Washington. Fortunately, I had an RV. Carter would never tell me what research he was engaged in Country M, but some academic-related questions he occasionally asked me gave me a vague idea. I advised him that it was immoral and he should stop as soon as possible. He didn't reply later. I went to visit his parents with some fruits, but I learned from the neighbor that they had been picked up by some foreigners. Only then did I realize that he had been caught by his weakness and had no choice, probably because of our past friendship. When the research was nearing success, he sent me a warning message. The zombie wave was coming. I carefully calculated that it would only take a week for it to spread from Country M to here. Since I guessed the content of Carter's research, I had already figured out what to do if such a day really came. I'm not a superhero and can't save everyone. All I could do was vaguely remind the salesperson just now and post a message on the internet with a small account: "Zombies are coming. Stock up quickly." A few minutes later, my account was blocked for posting false information. I could only protect myself. I couldn't go back to the rental house. It was too small and old, and its defensibility was extremely poor. I decided to stay in my RV. My only hobby was self-driving tours. To ensure comfort during long trips, I used my first deposit to buy an RV. It cost over 600,000 yuan, which was enough for me to pay the down payment for a house in my hometown. Now it seems that it was worth it. Due to license plate restrictions, I usually parked the car in a free parking lot in the suburbs. Now I need to drive it to find a hidden and at least semi-enclosed place to store things. After driving around the suburbs for half a day, I found an abandoned air raid shelter. There was no one around. The entrance of the shelter could just be blocked by the RV, and there was a gas station 3 kilometers away. I measured it with my steps and phone. It was about 100 square meters here. After choosing the place, I parked the car at the entrance, took a taxi to the car rental company, and rented a pickup truck. In the next few days, I would rely on it to transport goods. I drove the pickup truck back to the rental house first, packed up all the useful things, and moved them onto the truck. Then I went to the hardware, labor protection, and market and bought cleaning tools: tarpaulins, shelves, miner's lamps, woven bags, electric drills, thick and thin hemp ropes, and expansion screws. I also went to the supermarket and bought insecticides. Before purchasing other supplies, I had to plan the air raid shelter first. Pulling a truckload of tools, I returned to the air raid shelter. I put on my labor protection clothing, plastic shoes, and a mask, turned on the miner's lamp and adjusted the brightness, and then started the first round of cleaning. It could be seen that no one had been here before. There was a thick layer of dust and fallen leaves inside. The garbage filled 20 woven bags. After sweeping, I sprayed insecticide again. In late autumn, there might still be some stubborn insects. While waiting for the smell to dissipate, I pulled the garbage out and threw it away. On my way back, I passed a convenience store and went in to buy some bento. But thinking that eating hot food might become a luxury in the future, I put down the bento and went to the barbecue shop next to it. The meat was sizzling on the grill, and the aroma filled the air. I didn't care if it was hot and wrapped it in perilla leaves and stuffed it into my mouth. It was so delicious. The shop gave me barley tea to relieve the greasiness. After eating and drinking my fill, I suddenly felt a sense of sadness as if I were having my last meal. When paying the bill, I said, "If possible, stock up on more food recently, enough for a year." The boss was stunned at first, then smiled and said, "I stocked up a whole kitchen during the epidemic." The freezer is still full, just eat. Hearing this, I nodded reassuringly and left. I had promised not to care about others, but I just couldn't help it. The nearby metro was still open. I planned to finish tidying up the air raid shelter tonight no matter what, so I went in and stocked up on some instant foods. Once it was tidied up, I could put some of them away first. There was no reference data on the mutation and spread speed of zombies. Maybe they would break out next to me. Time was tight, and I had to race against time. When I returned to the shelter, I laid a layer of tarpaulin on the ground. It had been neglected for years, and I didn't know if it would get damp when it rained. Then I assembled the shelves and lined them up. Because the cave was arched, there was a large irregular space above. I drilled a few holes with the electric drill and tied a few ropes to dry things. After the initial tidying up, I placed the things I brought back from the rental house and the food I bought at Metro on the shelves one by one. By the time I finished, it was already 3 o'clock in the morning. I parked the RV well to block the entrance of the shelter and then went back to the car and lay down reassuringly while trying to fall asleep. I was calculating in my mind what to buy tomorrow. Suddenly, my phone vibrated. Victoria, I broke up. Can I come to Washington to stay with you tomorrow? It was my best friend, Nora. We grew up in the same orphanage. Just at this critical moment, it would be a lie to say that I didn't resist. Nora was soft-hearted. In this kind of situation, I was really afraid that she would cause trouble. After hesitating again and again, I typed the reply and pressed send. After sleeping for 4 hours, I got up. I first went to the market to buy some dried goods that were easy to store and then about a week's worth of fresh ingredients. The only problem was that the air raid shelter had no electricity, and the power supply of the RV was not enough to drive electrical appliances. For food, I could only mainly rely on convenience foods with a long shelf life. Thinking of this, I went to the pharmacy and bought a bunch of nutritional tablets, vitamins, and various commonly used medicines and medical devices. When the truck bed was almost full, Nora called. Victoria, I'm here. Yes, I still agreed to let her come. When I saw her, I was startled. Behind her was a much larger truck, and I didn't know what kind of machines were loaded on it. Solar generators. Didn't you say you wanted to go camping? I brought 5 over. That's right. Her family had worked on the rural lighting project. Although we both grew up in the orphanage, I was sent there because my parents died in an accident, and she was a kidnapped child who was rescued in an anti-trafficking operation. After staying in the orphanage for 4 or 5 years, she was found by her biological parents and returned to her family. This was really a pleasant surprise. Nora said that these generators could supply the normal household electricity consumption of 2 villas. As long as there was sun, they could be used for more than 20 years. I quickly took her to the mall and bought 3 freezers and various essential electrical appliances. I also ordered a bunch of meat and seafood. Now I didn't have to worry about food at all. Nora thought it was strange that I was buying so many things just for camping. After hesitating again and again, I told her the truth. There was a complex expression on her face. She seemed to think I was joking, but she also seemed to believe it a little. At this time, a message from Carter came again. There was only one video. The background seemed to be a laboratory. A person in a white coat was standing with his back to the camera in front of a door. He seemed to be unlocking the door. The next moment, the door was suddenly pushed open. A zombie rushed out, and before the person in the white coat could even make a sound, his neck was bitten. He struggled a few times on the ground and then died. Nora screamed in fright. Is it really true? The zombie, which had been biting the person on the ground, suddenly turned around as if it heard the sound outside the screen. Then it rushed over, very fast. Then, the screen spun, and only the sounds of bones breaking and biting could be heard. I was stunned and even forgot to breathe. The phone in the screen landed steadily, and the lens was facing the ceiling. When I thought the video was over, a pair of terrifying eyes full of only the whites of the eyes and surrounded by bloodstains suddenly appeared in front of the lens. Now even I was scared out of my wits. I quickly exited the video. It's so scary. You have to protect yourself. Carter didn't reply. Carter, are you okay? Carter, my heart suddenly tightened. Was this video recorded by Carter? I couldn't afford to be sad. If I didn't hurry up, the next one to be zombified might be us. Nora and I divided the work. She continued to buy food and daily necessities and return the rented pickup truck. I went to modify the RV. It could be seen from the video sent by Carter that zombies were very strong. The shoulders of the person in the white coat were bitten off, although the material of the RV was harder than human bones. Just in case, it still needed to be strengthened. Miss, this is a legal modification. We can't do it. The employee of the modification shop spread his hands. Looking helpless, I scanned the payment QR code on the door and entered 100,000 yuan and directly paid. Can you do it now? He couldn't hide his happy expression. If I don't do it for money, I'm an idiot. Come and pick up the car tomorrow. Add a circle of protective nets, and then put anti-peeping films on all the glasses, the kind that people can't see inside from the outside. I instructed. Don't worry, sister, it'll be impenetrable. Just as I was about to leave, I remembered something and scanned another 10,000 yuan for him. Gasoline, give me as many barrels as you have. He was startled and said sheepishly, you look so gentle, but you're not simple. When I went to the backyard just now, I saw a worker stealing gas from the customer's car with a pipe. I guess it was also part of their business. After the outbreak, the gas station probably wouldn't operate normally. For us, gasoline was as important as food. On my way back, I bought a few machetes, although short weapons were not very handy, just in case when I returned to the air raid shelter. I couldn't help exclaiming, we've opened a convenience store here. The originally empty cave was now full. The 3 freezers were connected outside, and there was even a circle of cabinets wrapped around them. There was everything to eat and use. Nora, you really impressed me. Nora looked proud. The preparatory work was almost done. We just had to wait to pick up the car tomorrow and wait for the end of the world. After relaxing, I started to check my emails. Suddenly, I found that Carter had sent me a document 3 days ago. After reading it, my heart sank. He said that there might be 2 types of zombie variants. One was direct mutation, that is, once bitten, one would immediately turn into a zombie. The second type was very scary. It had an incubation period. It might not mutate until 2 days later. This meant that when the zombie wave broke out, the normal people around might also be latent zombies. It was impossible to guard against. Early in the morning, the modification shop notified me to pick up the car. When inspecting the car, he mysteriously opened the car door and motioned me to look inside with his eyes. There were 10 barrels of gasoline stacked inside, and 1 barrel was about the amount of 1 fuel tank. I nodded with satisfaction and added an 8,000 yuan tip. The boss was so happy that his mouth couldn't close. Don't worry, we'll keep our mouths shut. I was speechless for a moment. In a few more days, I'm afraid there would be nowhere to spend money even if I had it. On my way back, I bought a few fire extinguishers. If these gasoline barrels were set on fire, it would be no joke. Just as I was about to lock the screen after paying, my phone received a push notification. At the real-time customs entry point in Washington, a man from Country M suddenly went crazy and bit other people. It's suspected to be rabies. I exclaimed in my heart that it was bad. This was clearly spreading over. I quickly got in the car and drove back. This person was obviously the second type of variant. He was infected in Country M and didn't show symptoms until after entering the country. It was hard not to suspect that it was a poisoning conspiracy. Outside the window, there was a lot of traffic. This sudden news didn't seem to have affected people yet, but soon, this peaceful scene would disappear completely. I sped all the way back to the air raid shelter. Nora was sticking artificial grass outside. If you didn't look carefully, it really blended in with the bushes next to it. In contrast, our place here was like a paradise. Victoria, look, I ordered it urgently. It's autumn now, so I chose the withered leaf style. When spring comes, I'll change it to green. She still had a smile on her face. While I was feeling melancholy, I quickly pulled her into the cave and blocked the entrance with the car, with the door facing inward so that we could get out and get things conveniently. She didn't seem to have seen that news and was still excited as if she were going camping. I told her seriously, Nora, it has started in Washington. The end of the world was coming soon. I took out my computer and sorted out all the known information about zombies. I also read the chat records with Carter again. Suddenly, I found that all the things he discussed with me were some ingredients that could suppress thinking ability or strengthen physical strength. I recorded all the ingredients and their corresponding effects in detail, and Nora was making dinner there. She also urgently customized a small stove. Once the charcoal was lit, it could be used as a stove. After turning off the computer, I went out to take a look. She was actually frying beef tallow. There were hand-cut beef balls and various vegetables next to it. Hot pot. Spicy beef tallow hot pot. The fragrant and spicy hot pot base made my mouth water. It's nice of you to bother to prepare food. Do you still remember what Dean Lu always told us? Even if the sky falls, we have to fill our stomachs first. Most of the children in the orphanage were solitary and shy. They were always not active in eating. At this time, the dean would always tell us that no matter what, we had to eat our fill first. Only when we were full would we have the strength to live. The hot pot base gradually boiled, and the spicy smell filled the entire air raid shelter. I picked up the whole plate of beef and poured it all in. Why don't you put some vegetables in first to make a base? Nora protested. Eating hot pot means eating meat. The steam rose, and under the dim miner's lamp, we ate heartily. No one noticed that several news notifications had been pushed to the phone. Breaking news: a suspected new type of rabies virus has entered our country. Multiple cases have been found. Urgent notice: an unknown virus has appeared. Please, residents, do not go out unless necessary. 3 kilometers away at the gas station, a customer who was refueling suddenly tilted his head, his eyes rolled up, and he bit the employee who had his back to him without warning. After Eating, we sorted out the garbage and temporarily placed it at the entrance of the cave. We planned to go out and throw it away during the day depending on the situation. Until now, I still didn't feel the reality of the end of the world. After everything was tidied up, we went back to the RV to get ready to sleep. The car door was modified with a device that could be locked from the inside. When locked, it couldn't be opened from the outside. In a real mess. Not only zombies were scary, but also crazy humans. Before going to sleep, I checked my phone and found that the world was already in chaos. My Instagram moments were full of short videos of zombies biting people. The bitten people quickly turned into zombies. After a week like this, we were not affected. During this period, it also rained, and we collected enough rainwater. Nora prepared portable filtration equipment. After heating, it was enough for daily use. Coupled with the bottled water and barreled water we purchased, we didn't have to worry about water in the short term. When we were imagining that we could probably survive like this until the zombies were eliminated, an accident happened. 3 weeks after the outbreak, we had just lain down. Suddenly, there was a strange noise outside the air raid shelter. It sounded like a fight, with the sound of biting mixed in. We held our breath and didn't dare to move. After about half an hour, it was finally quiet outside. We had installed a surveillance camera above the entrance of the cave. I quickly took out my phone to check. At this moment, there seemed to be no one outside. I checked the playback and almost dropped my phone in fright. Half an hour ago, a man was wandering around the entrance. At that time, we were still cleaning up the mess after dinner. He had been waiting, and when we quieted down, he quietly lifted the artificial grass and tried to sneak in. The next second, a zombie pounced on him and bit his neck. Then the two fought. Then, the man fell down, and the zombie staggered away. Not long after, the man also stood up with stiff limbs and left the surveillance range. During their scuffle, the artificial grass at the entrance was torn off. I'll go out and have a look. Nora turned around and was about to get out of bed. The moment she was about to unlock the door, I suddenly felt something was wrong. Stop, what's wrong? That man hasn't left yet. In the last second of the surveillance video, there was clearly a dark shadow shaking. Nora's face turned pale with fright, and she sat back on the bed, backing away. The RV almost filled the entrance. Without moving the car out first, a normal person couldn't squeeze in. The only flaw was under the car. Someone could crawl in, but the man outside had been bitten. Would he be so smart? Thinking like this, I felt a little relieved and casually wrote a note in the memo to find something to block the bottom of the car. We huddled together, trembling as we stared at the surveillance video on the phone. The bitten man was indeed still there. His body swayed from side to side, appearing and disappearing in the video. Let's just go to sleep. We don't know when he'll leave, and as more and more people get bitten, this kind of situation will only happen more frequently. We have to get used to it, I suggested. Yeah, even if he really gets into the cave, the car is so strongly reinforced that he can't get inside. Nora also agreed. When we were about to turn off our phones, the man outside suddenly looked up. A pair of empty and lifeless eyes were staring right at the surveillance camera. It scared us so much that we almost screamed, but we had to accept that this would become the norm. There would always be threats and the resulting fear. We finally lay down and forced ourselves to get used to it. I opened my Instagram moments and saw a wailing mess inside. There were unscrupulous people already selling supplies at high prices. They even demanded full payment in advance and didn't guarantee delivery. Many people were attacked by zombies on their way to pick up the goods and lost both their lives and property. The end of the world was truly fertile ground for evil. In the 4th week of holing up in the cave, we had to drive out. We needed to find some more protective materials. We need to find something to block the bottom of the car, and then it's best to find something to block the entrance. What if someone raids our home when we go out? Nora muttered in the passenger seat. I nodded in agreement, even though we had thought a lot at that time. There were inevitably still some omissions. We came to a scrap car yard. We drove around the yard and, after making sure there was no one around, finally stopped in front of a large pile of iron sheets. Nora sat in the driver's seat and leaned out half of her body to keep watch for me. I rummaged through the pile of scrap iron. Roar. Suddenly, the sound of a zombie biting came from not far away. I immediately turned around to get into the car, but it was too late. A pair of hands stretched out from under the iron sheets and firmly gripped my ankle. These hands didn't belong to a zombie, but to a normal man. He shook off the scrap car parts covering him and leered at me. He shook his phone, and the sound of zombies was playing on it. Don't play tricks on me. Hand over whatever is in the car. The man roughly pulled me down and quickly turned over and pinned me down with his knee on my shoulder. So he was looting while taking advantage of the chaos. He picked up a large stone from the ruins and pressed it against my temple. I struggled to raise my head and winked at Nora. I was restrained, and she didn't dare to act rashly. I wanted her to run away, but the man suddenly started groping me restlessly. You look thin, but you have everything you should. I felt sick to my stomach. Brother, Nora smiled sweetly at him. I'm even more shapely than her. Do you want to give it a try? I clearly heard the man swallow hard, and the pressure of his leg on me grew even heavier. Don't play tricks, Nora, don't come over, you go first. The man angrily slapped me and yelled at Nora, if you dare to run, I'll kill your friend. Nora winked at me and walked over with a smile. With the man's scream, the pressure of his leg on me loosened, freed from the restraint. I quickly got up and saw the man rolling on the ground, clutching his eye, and Nora proudly shook the portable fire extinguisher in her hand. It was the size of a thermos. I had just bought it on a whim and left it in the passenger seat. I didn't expect it would save my life. We quickly got in the car and left. Before leaving, I picked up a large iron sheet and stuffed it into the car. It was just right to use it to surround the bottom of the car. When passing the exit, we saw an off-road vehicle parked there. There was a big logo on the car door, the same as the tattoo pattern on the man's hand. Nora, you drive our car. I'm going to drive that man's car away. We quickly switched positions. The man's car keys were on the car, and the car was in a running state. I guess he left it like that to make it easier to escape. This car would be used as our means of transportation when we had to go out in the future. The RV would always stay at the entrance of the cave. It had truly become our home. The trunk and back seat of the car were stuffed full of supplies, a very miscellaneous assortment. It seemed that the man had been wandering around and committing crimes. Ill-gotten gains must not be kept. Every time we passed a residential area, I would throw down some supplies. From the rearview mirror, I could see that as soon as the car drove away, people hiding in the corners would rush out to pick up the supplies. I hoped they could hold out a little longer. Half a year after the zombie outbreak, finally some good news came. The country had developed a drug that could inhibit the spread of the virus once a person was bitten. The drug was airdropped at fixed points in residential areas every day. When I saw this news, my heart tightened. Wouldn't this cause an even more chaotic situation? People might get bitten while scrambling for the drug. However, the situation I was afraid of didn't occur. Before the airdrop of the drug, the situation of each residential area had been accurately locked down. Groups had been established based on this. The large groups were further subdivided into small groups. Group leaders were elected among the groups, and they arranged schedules. After the drug was airdropped, people went downstairs to pick it up in order. One person picked up the drug while another escorted. Each person got one share, and no one took more. In this chaotic world, humans were saving themselves in an orderly manner. On the contrary, we were in trouble, because we weren't in a residential area. We couldn't get the airdrop drug. Fortunately, the country had considered this situation and also carried out airdrops in places where there weren't many zombies. However, we had to find a way to pick it up ourselves. I dug out my fishing rod from the RV, wrapped a large hook with wire, practiced a few times, and then we set off for the airdrop point. There was no scene of people scrambling as I had expected. There was no one at the airdrop point, only a few lonely packs of medicine to be on the safe side. I still followed my original plan and didn't get out of the car. Instead, I opened the sunroof, climbed out, and used the fishing rod to hook the medicine outside like fishing. The car was running. If there was any situation, Nora would drive it away immediately. However, every precaution still has a loophole. I didn't expect a zombie to fall from a tree. It was only one step away from me. I quickly climbed back into the car and frantically pressed the window closing button. The thing's arm had already reached in and was waving around aimlessly in the air. We screamed and frantically picked up the backpacks beside us and hit the withered arm. However, it was no use. It was extremely strong, and the gap of the sunroof was being forced wider and wider. I remembered that there was a machete I had bought before under the seat. I quickly dug it out and chopped at the arm with all my might. The desire to survive made me use all my strength, and I chopped off its arm in 3 or 5 strokes. However, it still clung to the roof of the car and didn't leave. Carter had said that we had to attack their brains to be effective. Victoria, sit tight. Nora suddenly accelerated and then slammed on the brakes. We were thrown around in the car. The zombie on the roof also fell off due to inertia. Fortunately, the medicine pack I had hooked just now was still floating steadily outside the car. I carefully reeled it in. I hoped we would never have to use it. It wasn't until we got back to the cave and lay down again that my heart, which had been hanging in the air, finally settled. I felt as if all my strength had been drained. I lay there groggy for a long time before regaining some energy. Nora brought in 2 bowls of instant noodles. I slurped mine while sorting out the latest zombie information I had collected. After sorting it out, I browsed the web, wanting to see if I could find some tutorials on making homemade weapons. The air raid shelter couldn't be a permanent utopia. We had to be ready to fight back at any time. A push notification was accidentally clicked open by me. The country had publicized an email address to collect all clues related to zombies. I thought of the chat records with Carter. Before I sent the useful chat records and the recent zombie information I had recorded over, I was sitting in the off-road vehicle we had obtained earlier, parked outside the air raid shelter, scanning the surroundings. Nora was nimbly replacing the artificial grass at the entrance. The yellowish-brown one was being taken off and replaced with a green one. It had been 2 years since the zombie outbreak. It was completely different from the beginning. The air raid shelter was becoming increasingly empty. In at most 1 more month, our food would be gone. The zombie virus had broken out all over the world. Most countries had chosen to use force to kill the infected people. Only our country had chosen to do its best to shelter the infected. All major scientific research institutions were working non-stop to develop drugs. Everyone was looking forward to the day when those who had been bitten could recover. Crack. A zombie with its head hanging down walked towards us. Nora glanced up and then continued to arrange the grass. I also calmly reached my hand to the back seat and opened the car door. When the last side was glued on, she nimbly jumped onto the car and closed the door firmly. I opened the car window and threw a beer bottle into the distance. The zombie immediately turned around and walked towards the beer bottle. The latest research showed that these fully zombified people had no hope of being cured, and they were especially sensitive to harsh sounds. The beer bottles were originally collected by me with great effort, intending to make crude explosives, but it turned out that they posed no threat to zombies. Now they could only be used to make a noise to distract them. During this long ordeal, we had become numb and indifferent to the terrible situation. That day, Nora and I were taking inventory of the supplies in the air raid shelter. We had to reduce our daily food intake to delay the depletion of food as much as possible. My phone suddenly vibrated. A strange number was calling in. We looked at each other in surprise. After the zombie outbreak, not even telecom fraudsters would call. Why was it ringing now? Victoria, hello, I'm Charles, the director of the National Zombie Virus Research Center. As Director Charles introduced himself further, I finally remembered that more than a year ago, I had sent an email. He said that the information I provided was very valuable. We understand that you majored in biochemistry and have detailed records and research on this virus. Therefore, we hope you can join our team. After hanging up the phone, my excitement gradually subsided. Back then, I had entered the research institute as the top student in my major, but the research quota was snatched away by the daughter of a professor. Since then, I had been engaged in administrative work. My actual research work had been forced to stop. I didn't have the confidence to participate in a project that was crucial to the survival of all mankind. That night, I tossed and turned. Around midnight, Nora's phone rang. I don't know what was said on the other end, but there was a sob in her voice. Victoria, my dad was bitten too. He's been taken to the shelter. When she came to Washington to find me, she had forced her family to make preparations, so over the years, her family had been safe. But that day, Uncle Chin had been bitten while trying to save an infected employee. Seeing Nora's panicked look, my heart ached. No one could escape this disaster. What was even more unfortunate was that a large number of deaths had begun to occur among the infected in the shelter. Eliminating this terrifying virus had become extremely urgent. Early the next morning, we stuffed the remaining supplies into the RV and set off for the research center. The research center would take care of our food, clothing, housing, and transportation. We left the supplies in the RV along the way in residential areas. Many people were no longer hiding at home like at the beginning, but were bravely going out to search for food and supplies. Going out didn't necessarily mean being bitten to death by zombies, but staying at home any longer would surely mean starving to death. When we arrived at the research center, Nora was arranged to stay in the family building. I was taken by Director Charles to the laboratory. On the way, he told me that the institute had obtained an infected person from country M. He carried the original strain of the virus. They were using him as the research object to develop an antidote. After Director Charles explained the latest research progress to me, he took me to see the infected person. We tested his blood and found complex drug residue components. We suspect that he was an experimental subject in country M before. How did you bring him here? He was about to be transported away as medical waste and burned. Our colleagues stationed abroad discovered him and saved him. Director Charles sighed again and said, recently, a large number of infected people have died. I don't know if he can hold on. As soon as he finished speaking, the door in front of us was opened. A room like a cage appeared in front of me. A man in a hospital gown was huddled in the corner, growling softly. I walked towards him nervously. He suddenly looked up and pounced on me. I was stunned and froze on the spot. Carter, obviously. He couldn't understand my call. I looked at Carter, who was imprisoned and walking like a dead man, frowning. Director Charles beside me pressed the remote control in his hand, and Carter was immediately pinned to the wall like a piece of meat on a chopping board, spread-eagled, his wrists and ankles were shackled. I walked in and observed him carefully. He has a lot of Greek letters and times engraved on his arm. The times are basically around the first outbreak of zombies, but we haven't deciphered what the letters mean, Director Charles said as he rolled up his sleeve. I took a look and understood. Perhaps he injected the drugs into himself. These letters were the ingredient codes specially compiled by our professor. I guessed that after Carter was bitten, while he was still conscious, he used himself to test the antidote. The first injection time was 5 minutes after he sent the video. The whole record only lasted less than 48 hours. After he got sick, it was interrupted. I quickly recorded all the ingredients. This was the research data he had obtained at the cost of himself. The laboratory here was huge. All the top experts in the country had gathered here. Everyone was fighting a desperate battle against this disaster. We had a meeting with relevant departments. Preliminary research had verified that due to different innate constitutions and genes, some people would get sick and die shortly after being infected, while some others would survive as zombies without consciousness or metabolism, like Carter. But whether they were alive or dead, their central nervous systems had been damaged and could never return to normal. This damage was irreversible. Hearing this, I was shocked. Then why were we still sheltering those clearly infected people? It was a huge waste of energy and financial resources, because all policies are people-oriented. After the meeting, Director Charles heard my doubts and explained with a smile, for us, those in the shelter are just living corpses, but for their families, they are their dearest and closest people, even if they are just walking corpses. It's better than disappearing completely from this world. This also gives hope to those who are still alive. What's more, what if in a few years, the technology really develops to the point where they can be brought back to life? I understood and felt ashamed of my short-sightedness. Research showed that within 24 hours after a normal human was bitten, their central nervous system would be completely destroyed. What we had to do was race against time and nip the zombie virus in the bud before it completely devoured normal humans. The data engraved on Carter's arm undoubtedly saved us a lot of time. I worked day and night with other top experts on experiments and researched. Several ingredients had been included in the list of effective virus inhibitors, but now we faced a problem. We lacked clinical trial subjects. Many people were unwilling to report immediately when they were bitten, fearing that they would never come back. So most of the people in the shelter had been infected for more than 24 hours and had no experimental value. The few newly infected people who were willing to be experimental subjects were far from enough to meet the experimental needs. I'll do it. At the discussion meeting, an old professor with gray hair stood up. He wanted to be infected voluntarily. His proposal was rejected. This kind of suicidal experiment was like drinking poison to quench thirst. The old professor left angrily. However, 10 minutes later, we received his mass email. Cage no. 3. Everyone looked at each other in surprise. I immediately realized what was going on and rushed towards room 3. Professor David had tied himself up, and his eyes were glazed over. Obviously, he had already been infected. Other experts also rushed over one after another, looking shocked. Dear teachers, let's respect Professor David's wishes, I said with a choked voice. Everyone had a sad look on their faces, but they still started injecting various reagents into Professor David in an orderly manner. But reality didn't go as we hoped. All the ingredients on the effective list failed. Professor David and Carter were locked up in the cage together as experimental subjects. The others could only quickly pull themselves together and throw themselves into a new round of experiments. Fortunately, after Professor David's story was posted online, many people said that if they were infected, they would be willing to be experimental subjects. However, the time limit that the infected people must be within 24 hours was still a difficult problem. All the currently eligible infected people participated, but we still hadn't screened out the key effective ingredients. We were just one step away. Based on the existing data, we improved the parameters and were about to conduct a new round of experiments when there was a shortage of experimental subjects again. This time, every expert said they were willing to be infected voluntarily, including me. I lost my parents when I was young and have no one to worry about in this world. You are all different. You have old people to support and children to take care of, so let me do it this time. Director Charles shook his head. The world has already owed you so much. We can't add to that. Everyone argued and couldn't reach an agreement. Finally, we decided to draw lots. The one who was drawn was Director Charles. Victoria, when this disaster is over, tell my daughter that her father participated in saving mankind. Before entering the experimental subject detention area, he said to me, keep these words and tell her yourself when You get out. 24 hours later, the third reagent injected into Director Charles's body had a reaction. He regained obvious self-awareness. He also responded to our words. Normal metabolism was restored. Later, he could have a slow conversation. It was only a matter of time before everything returned to normal. The relevant drugs were immediately put into production and distributed across the country a week later. The load on the shelter was getting lower and lower. Half a year later, the latest news was broadcast on the news. The zombie virus has been completely eliminated. It was over, but some things could never be erased. For example, the infected person shelter. As long as there was still one infected person alive, it would exist. Family members would visit these infected people with lost consciousness regularly, like visiting patients or prisoners. They were witnesses to that terrifying era, when manpower and resources were freed up. Various researches became more abundant. For example, we also discovered that when certain physical function parameters of the infected person dropped to a certain value, it meant that they didn't have much time left. But Carter was an exception. All the parameters showed that he couldn't survive for long, but he had always been in that small space, not struggling, breathing slowly, until I applied to the state to bring his parents back to China. The moment the two elderly people, who had been tortured and looked haggard, landed, I received a message from the research center. Carter has no vital signs. Outside the arrival hall, the sun was shining brightly. It had only been a little over a month since the disaster ended. Everything seemed as if it had never happened. People were busy moving around like ants. Get in the car, Victoria. Nora was waiting in our RV. The protective nets on the vehicle body and the anti-peeping films on the glass had been removed. The clear scratches on the outside showed that it had fought through a tough time. Story 2. In my past life, I set free the mermaid my brother had captured. Yet the mermaid believed my brother would keep his promise to care for her forever, and willingly beached herself to return to captivity. My brother, suffering from manic episodes, killed me in a fit of rage. She even had him dump my body into the sea as fish food. After being reborn, I resolved to watch coldly from the sidelines. I watched as my brother turned her into sashimi. My brother found a beached mermaid by the shore. The mermaid was stunningly beautiful, with deep blue eyes like the ocean that seemed to pull you into their depths, yet her nature remained utterly innocent. She would sing me the songs of her people at night, and sometimes hold my calloused hands, telling me I worked too hard. I couldn't bear to watch my brother kill her that day, so while he slept, I released her into the sea to send her home, yet she cried out with such piercing sorrow. When my brother came running at the sound, she leapt ashore to his side without hesitation, as resolute as a carp vaulting the dragon. Gate 1. The mermaid returned to the aquarium my brother kept in the kitchen, but in his manic episode, he killed me. Eager to make a good impression on my brother, the mermaid floated in the tank with her tiny fists clenched. Throw her into the sea for shark food. I told you I'm never going back to the ocean. Before the excruciating pain of my organs being shredded could fully fade, I realized I'd been reborn. My brother came back dragging an enormous fish tank, his face beaming with excitement. The container covered by a thick black cloth. Tao, guess what I caught this time? What is it? I knew it without guessing. It's that mermaid. My brother mysteriously drew all the curtains before unveiling the black cloth, revealing a dying mermaid lying beneath. Her hair flowed like seaweed, and her tail bore a clear blunt force wound. This is something no one in our town, perhaps the entire world, has ever seen before. My brother was so excited he seemed almost delirious. I understood what he meant. We grew up parentless in this borderland town, two kids with no means to support ourselves. Ostracism and isolation became our daily reality. No wonder he's thrilled. He's finally found something that'll make everyone see him in a new light. The mermaid awoke, blinking her luminous eyes at us in bewilderment. Who are you? I found you passed out on the beach and brought you here. I'm Kai. What's your name? Just like in our past life, my brother asked with a gentle smile playing on his lips. My name is Aloan. Aloan was too naive to distinguish between genuine kindness and human pretense. She believed him completely when he simply held her hand, called her beautiful, and promised to care for her forever. Back then, I adored Aloan too, showing her our human customs, telling her stories about our world. I even told her that my brother only kept her around to eat fish. There's no saving those hellbent on destruction. I shouldn't have spoken up or thought I could save anyone. I still remember how Aloan immediately reported everything I said to my brother afterward. My brother was so furious he beat me up. That beating left me badly injured. I was bedridden for 2 days without eating. These days I can't be bothered with Aloan, just living the same routine as always, but all I can do is ignore her as much as possible. Our place is just too cramped. Aloan tried making conversation while eyeing the noodles in my bowl with curiosity. Tao, what are you eating? Is it good? In my Past life I would have shared with her without hesitation, but now I just scooted away slightly, my tone frosty, nothing special. My aloofness did nothing to dampen Alohan's enthusiasm. She always tries to talk to me since my brother's rarely home. Whenever he returns, he brings her snacks and sometimes accessories like hair clips or necklaces. Alohan happily dolled herself up and even asked if I could buy her more makeup. I want Kai to see the prettier version of me, she spoke with coy hesitation. Is this how women act when they're in love, or is it just mermaids being like this? I turned her down, resolved to avoid any further interaction with her. Today my brother plucked a few of her scales, planning to show them off at the market. Her face twisted in pain, yet she let her brother pull it out, having gotten his way. Her brother wrapped his arms around her and kissed her forehead. Thank you, darling. You're the only one who truly understands me. Maybe one day we'll have a fairy tale wedding. With fireworks lighting up the sky, Alohan's face was radiant with joy and happiness. I stood by as an extra in the background. My brother told Alohan that mermaid scales could fetch a fortune, so we'd all have food to eat. It was my idea. I insisted he pluck those scales. To my surprise, Alohan actually believed it. The way she looked at me turned icy. Her gullibility played right into my hands. Exactly as I'd anticipated, my brother and I barely scraped by doing odd jobs as adults, though we often got shortchanged. At least we didn't have to survive on scavenged vegetable scraps and leftovers. Later, we saved enough to qualify for overseas work, finally freeing us from constant hunger. He knew I'd disrupt his plans and develop sympathy for Alohan. He guessed wrong. I'll never play the bleeding heart fool again. I'll never forget how dead serious Alohan looked when she told her brother to throw me into the sea. At the marketplace, everyone was fascinated by the scales her brother had brought. A well-traveled man marveled at the aurora-colored fish scales in awe. What creature did you take these from? I've never seen any this large before. My brother relishes being the center of attention, with everyone listening intently to his words. Encountered it at sea. That beast was enormous, with a tail like a ship's sail. I focus on gutting the fish. I clean and dry the fish he catches. Then the town merchants collect them to sell wholesale. I've been gutting fish with a knife since I could walk, quick and clean, leaving nothing behind. My brother made sure. Alohan peeked through the kitchen window to watch me work. Alohan scowled as I dispatched fish with single practice strokes. Barbaric. I straightened up and saw my brother's satisfied expression, feeling utterly speechless. Bro, there's no need for this. I couldn't care less whether she lives or dies. Of course my brother didn't believe me. He just chuckled without saying a word. Ever since Alohan saw me gutting fish, she's been keeping her guard up around me. Whenever I cook in the kitchen, she'd sink to the bottom of the aquarium and stare intently at my movements. The moment I pick up a knife, she opens her mouth, ready to call for my brother to stop me from murdering her. My brother often tells her bedtime stories, tucks her in, wakes her up, and they even feed each other. This bizarre human-fish relationship somehow mirrors marital bliss. But would Alohan still wear that blissful smile if she knew my brother was mentally drafting recipes when I was selling dried fish? A local bully kept staring at me. Hey Tao, got something shady hidden at your place? The bully leered with a creepy grin too. No, where'd you hear that? I instinctively denied it outright. The bully just gave me a knowing look without saying much. Even after being reborn, I still don't know how he picked up the trail. I only remember him breaking into my house late that night to keep Alohan hidden. I stood guard at the kitchen doorway confronting the bully, nearly risking my life. Back then, Alohan was too busy burying herself in her brother's arms as he rushed home, while I sat in the living room bandaging the knife wound inflicted by the bully. I should have seen the signs back then. I won't stick my nose where it doesn't belong this time. That very night, the bully showed up just as expected. The brute constantly bullied people around town, relying on his hulking frame, with his uncle being the deputy mayor. Folks could do nothing but steer clear of him. The walls in my room are paper thin. I can hear his footsteps pacing in the living room. My brother's out fishing. His boat should have just docked by now. He'll be home in about 10 minutes. The thug ransacked every room in my house until he finally forced open the kitchen door. After a splashing sound in the water, I heard Alohan's wary voice. The bully looked both shocked and thrilled. Holy crap, it really is a mermaid. Are you for real? Get away, don't touch me. Ah, Alohan shrieked. Thrashing in the water with increasing frenzy, I lay motionless in my room, entertaining dark thoughts. If only he'd just get rid of that troublemaker Alohan right now. But my brother returned surprisingly fast, just in time to see the bully trying to drag Alohan away. In desperation, my brother grabbed the harpoon by the door and fought him through the paper-thin door. I could hear Alohan crashing to the floor and the sickening sound of the sharp prongs piercing flesh. Alohan's initial terrified screams gradually faded into silence along with the entire surroundings. My brother panted heavily, sounding almost disbelieving. Is he dead? Aloan answered guiltily. Though my brother's tone was gentle, having lived with him day and night, I could detect the underlying savagery and excitement. I just saw your tail fin strike him and he died instantly. Is your caudal fin venomous? But my parents taught me not to use venom recklessly. Still, protecting you is what I must do. So mermaids are actually poisonous. Brother couldn't contain his excitement. Does that mean anyone who hurts you will get poisoned? Then I don't have to worry about your safety anymore. Exactly, my whole body is toxic. Even predators trying to eat me would die from poisoning. Unaware of her brother's unusual behavior, Aloan revealed her hidden trump card to him. She even volunteered that drinking her blood was the antidote. Then the two began their sweet, intimate moments together, tossing and turning in bed. I couldn't sleep knowing someone had died in my house, while also pondering what path to take next. My brother hasn't had much luck with his recent fishing trips. He tries to maintain his gentlemanly demeanor around Aloan, but secretly vents his frustration by smashing things behind his back. I quickly found a new job. There's a seafood shop at the market hiring staff, too afraid to stay home. I'd come by every day the moment the shop owner posted the hiring notice. I applied. I can fillet fish with effortless precision and handle all kinds of shellfish with practiced ease. The boss lady was quite pleased with me, praising how little trouble I caused. Given our past troubles with bullies, my brother was extremely cautious about Aloan's presence. Fortunately, our remote location meant few visitors. He had no time for me, completely preoccupied with spoiling Aloan, making trips to town just to buy her favorite cakes and biscuits. He wanted to fatten the fish, but the fish simply felt deeply loved. It's peak travel season now, with many out-of-towners vacationing by the sea. Apart from the distant clouds over the beach, there's not much scenery here, just budget travelers or those seeking off-the-beaten-path spots. I arrived even earlier than my already 2-hour advanced work schedule. A rush of customers had just arrived that morning, and the boss's wife was frantically cleaning fish when she spotted me, both surprised and delighted. Tao, why are you here so early again today? My brother woke up, so I headed out. I said calmly, taking the knife from her hand. Only then did she find time to help the boss who'd been working the wok so hard it was smoking. She wiped the sweat from her brow, a flicker of compassion in her eyes. Sigh, your brother really, you're his only flesh and blood. You'd think he'd take better care of you. I shook my head without responding. I rushed out the door as soon as my brother woke up, wanting to avoid any arguments. Not that I could win a fight against him anyway. As for Aloan, she quickly picked up on my brother's dejection and even offered to help lure prey from the sea for him. Of course, my brother wouldn't let her leave the kitchen fish tank. I made an extra $50 in tips today, which I left with the landlady along with most of my earnings from these past few days. The small portion I brought back was mostly used by my brother to buy things for Aloan. Tao, what are you saving this money for? The shopkeeper helped me put the money away and casually asked. Anywhere would do, just leave this place. Go somewhere with real Tao trees. My mom gave me this name. I've only eaten Tao 3 times, sweet and crispy. The shop owner's wife turned away and wiped her eyes. When I got home, there were 2 strangers at my doorstep. They were town detectives. The local bully had been missing for ages without any leads, so his uncle, the deputy mayor, hired investigators who eventually traced the case to our family. Only people like them could afford to hire detectives. Their expressions suggested they hadn't spotted Aloan. When I entered, the aquarium only held a few seashells. After turning the house upside down without finding any clues, the detectives left. Several hours after their departure, my brother finally wheeled the aquarium to the beach behind our house. Tao, help me push the cart. We need to bring Aloan back. I was surprised that my brother had Aloan temporarily returned to the sea to evade the detectives. When we reached the shore, there was no sign of the mermaid. I didn't even need to glance sideways to know my brother must be furious right now. His fists were clenched, his entire body trembling uncontrollably. Aloan, where are you? The shoreline lay silent, answering him only with the occasional cresting wave. After searching the beach for an hour, the brother finally stopped and drove his fist into the sand. The yielding grains absorbed the blow with gentle resistance, leaving his knuckles flushed crimson. Damn it, if I ever see her again, I'll make her pay, he growled through clenched teeth. Meanwhile, in the ocean's depths, Aloan seemed to sense something and angrily shook off her sister's hand. I can feel it. Kai's looking for me. He must be frantic right now, happy now that you've torn us apart. Her sister Maris took a deep breath. We're not even the same species as humans. How could he possibly truly love you? Aloan was too deeply in love to hear any of this. 3. She stood with her arms crossed, sulking. That's exactly why I said your perspective is shallow, ignorant, and narrow-minded. Say whatever you want, but come home with me now. Don't you know Mom and Dad have been worried sick since you disappeared? I'm not going back. Aloan struggled desperately. My whole life I've had to follow your orders. This time I choose for myself. Maris underestimated her resolve and nearly lost his grip on her, but Aloan was forcibly dragged back to her oceanic domain and imprisoned. Maris sighed helplessly at her sister, whose vision remained completely obscured within the cage. Stay here and clear your head first. You can go back to see Mom and Dad when you've come to your senses. You're just jealous. I can feel how desperately Kai's searching for me right now. Look, he's even made me put on weight. Aloan ran her hands over her arms and rounded tail fin, lost in sweet reminiscence. Then Maris interrupted. How do you know he doesn't want to eat you? He would never eat me. On the shore, my brother went home for a quick meal, then stubbornly came back out to keep searching. I could see his figure from the back window of our house. Suddenly, fireworks exploded across the night sky. Though called fireworks, they resembled dazzling auroras, rising from the sea into the heavens, their colors shifting for several mesmerizing seconds. My brother never even glanced up, scanning the shoreline with desperate intensity, determined not to miss any chance of finding Aloan. Kai, a familiar voice rang out as Aloan unexpectedly leaped from the sea. Her brother immediately reached out to embrace her, kneeling on the shore with tears of joy. Was that fireworks you just set off, darling? They were breathtaking. Yes, I used my scales to create them. Magnificent, aren't they? Aloan flicked her fishtail with pride, noticing her damaged scales. Her brother anxiously carried her home in a hurry. When they returned, I overheard Aloan urging her brother to capture her sister too. It was Maris who took me away. Luckily I managed to escape. Who knows how long it would have been before we saw each other again. Aloan's eyes welled up with tears as she reached the painful part of her story. Who are you? Her brother patted her head with tender affection in his voice. All right, I'll make sure to bring her back to apologize to you. Just wait for me. I sat in the living room contemplating my departure. Aloan stayed in the kitchen fish tank as if it were her real home. Tao, your brother adores me. You're not jealous, are you? I nearly burst out laughing when I heard that. Jealous? I couldn't be happier about it. Aloan's intel was spot on. Her brother actually went and captured her sister too. Watching her sister suffer because of her, Aloan could only beam with pride at her partner's masterful fishing skills. See, Maris, I told you my beloved was extraordinary. Maris was too furious to speak, her body covered in wounds. My brother gazed proudly at his creation before bossing me around again. Tao, go fetch a larger fish tank. The desire to leave struck me at that very moment. I'm done taking orders. It's time to follow my own voice. In the dead of night, I heard rhythmic tapping sounds, deliberately muffled to near silence. I'm hypersensitive to noise. The slightest unnatural sound keeps me wide awake. Wrapping my robe around me, I found Maris in the living room tapping away with exaggerated caution. She bit her lip nervously when she noticed me. Could you help me? I govern this stretch of ocean. Without me, the fish would be easy prey. She trailed off, realizing her words contradicted human intentions. I studied her with curiosity. Apparently, not all mermaids are created equal. Maris seemed much more composed, still trying to reason with Aloan even while trapped in the fish tank. It's truly pitiful how far she's been dragged into this mess. Maris sank dejectedly to the bottom of the tank as I gently tapped the glass with my finger. I can save you. Really, name your price. I can give you anything. Moon pearls, gold, diamonds, or pearls. Maris perked up instantly, though she remembered to keep it low-key and avoided making a scene. I reached out my hand to her. Come on, I'll carry you to the shore. I carried Aloan to the beach like this before too, though I had to drag her there against her will. She screamed and squirmed the whole way there. Maris was much more cooperative, her cool body curled motionless in my arms, but I still managed to make some noise when we left. The sound of the door slamming woke Aloan. When she opened her eyes and saw me leaving with Maris, she immediately started frantically tapping on the fish tank. Kai, she's escaping. Kai, my brother's neurasthenia was quite severe. He woke up instantly from the commotion. He runs faster than me. Just before he could catch up, Maris and I dashed into the sea. The water was Maris' domain. With a gentle flick of her tail, she effortlessly propelled me back to the surface. My brother stood on the shore watching us from afar, his eyes dark and brooding. Tao, do you have a death wish? Then kill me. I know you've always wanted to. I was furious too, though I brought this on myself by being reckless and insisting on saving Aloan, but it was my own brother who struck the final blow. We stood in stalemate like that for a full half hour, until my brother finally turned back first under Maris' worried gaze. I eventually retreated as well. Before leaving, Maris kissed my forehead in gratitude. Thank you. I truly don't know how to repay you, should you ever Visit my stretch of the sea, I'll have every fish salute you in honor, for, don't mention it, no worries, he won't do anything to me. Once my brother cools down, he won't take it out on me anymore. He still needs me to help get the fish. Besides, my luggage is still at home, I want to take it with me. Alright, you're a good person, our merfolk clan consents when one of us dies. You should leave this town as soon as possible. After all, my sister's been spoiled rotten by our parents. If anything happens to her, they'd raise hell. Maris looked at me with concern. So that's how it works, serves them right. What goes around comes around. Only after watching me walk away did Maris finally turn and descend back into the ocean depths. When I returned, I saw my brother violently kicking the fish tank. How could you let your sister escape? Was this deliberate? You never intended for me to catch her, did you? Are you playing games with me? He glared at Aloan, gripping the edges of the fish tank with both hands, barely restraining himself from lashing out. I'm sorry, this is all my fault. Aloan burst into tears from fright. Seeing this, her brother pinched his own thigh again to suppress his rising temper. It's not your fault, I'm the useless one. No, it's my fault. Go ahead and scold me if you want. Aloan threw herself into her brother's arms, weeping like a rain-soaked pear blossom, stroking her plump mermaid tail. Her brother's face twisted into a sickly smile. He noticed my return, called out to me, then shut the kitchen door. Tao, I'm planning to invite the mayor over for a sashimi feast in a couple days. Everyone will be in awe of me then. Those who look down on us will have no choice but to worship us. My brother was acting rather unhinged, but he cut me off just as I tried to reason with him. Do you remember when you were 8, burning with fever? I carried you on my back, begging the doctors to save you. They called us worthless trash who couldn't even catch a snapper, said you weren't worth saving. Then my first time fishing with them, their nets tangled, so they threw me overboard to face the raging waves. Told them my life wasn't worth mourning. All I got in the end was one lousy sardine, our stolen home, the money they took, every humiliation we suffered, all because I was nobody. As he spoke, a light flickered in his eyes, one I'd never seen before. Just wait, I'll make them eat their words soon enough. Seeing him stuck in his stubborn mindset, I tried to talk him out of it. Bro, we've got the means now, nobody can push us around anymore, we could totally start fresh somewhere else. Didn't you always say you wanted to try Tao's peaches and apricots? Their opinions don't mean a damn thing, their narrow-mindedness is their own problem. My brother frowned as he listened to me. The fact he wasn't angry meant he was seriously considering my words. A new place, where could we possibly go? Plenty of options. Customers told me even shoe-shining stands make good money where they're from. I'm utterly enchanted by the scenes those travelers described to me. Bone-dry pristine streets, ladies gliding past in high heels and sweeping gowns, accompanied by gentlemen of refined bearing. God knows which part Maris overheard from the kitchen, but she suddenly raised her voice in displeasure to argue with me. Why would you tear Kai away from the only home he's ever known? That's completely wrong. Such cowardly thinking. I spent ages trying to reason with my brother, and just like that, Aloan's few words completely turned him to the dark side. She's right, Tao, save your breath, don't question my decisions anymore. As he spoke, he reverted to his old self. I never expected to change his mind with just a few words, but he's even more stubborn than I thought. I won't bring it up again. The car is all set. I'm about to pull off my secret runaway plan, with my brother constantly around these days. Sneaking my luggage out under his nose isn't easy. I'll have to take it slow, just moving small bits each day, stashing them with the shopkeeper's wife. She's decent enough, at least when I'm useful to her business. Brother was preparing a seafood feast at home, unaware she was the main course. Aloan kept asking if this was their wedding banquet. He lied and said yes. I gave it some thought. She spent every day happily talking to herself. They even unilaterally made peace with me. Tao, we're family now. I apologize for how I treated you before. Whatever, I couldn't be bothered to engage with her. Aloan didn't mind my attitude, eagerly awaiting the day of the banquet with pure delight. These past few days, my brother had delivered invitations to every household in town. Sometimes when he was busy sharpening knives or preparing banquet tables, I'd help with the deliveries. Tao, you and your brother are actually hosting a banquet. You two have really made something of yourselves. Is this banquet really just serving us 2 measly fish slices? We've tasted every kind of fish there is. Don't even think about pulling a fast one on us. Most of the crowd remained skeptical. I simply flashed a knowing smile. My brother caught a creature none of you have ever seen before. Hardly anyone believes that. Quit the suspense. What could that kid possibly do? In all my years, there's no fish I haven't tasted, even if it's beneath them. Who could turn down a free meal? So everyone accepted the invitation. A strange sense of relief washed over me. Those memories my brother mentioned were like thorns in my heart too. As a child, I cleaned fish and mended nets for a market vendor just to earn a meal. After working all day for him, he wouldn't even spare me a tin of food. Oh, he said nobody would back me up, that no one could handle these matters, and even threatened to gouge my eyes out if I kept glaring at him back home. I lied to my brother, telling him I'd found a nice beach and slept there all day. He didn't blame me, admitting he'd been slacking off too. We both chose to ignore each other's waterlogged, shriveled fingers. As for his mania, growing up always comes with losing something. I've already died once before. I feel no attachment to anything in this town. The day of the banquet arrived as scheduled. My brother said the fish scales he'd shown everyone earlier came from this catch, the main ingredient. Even the town mayor showed up. He was also curious about what kind of creature could have scales that large. If that fish of yours is really that big, we could skewer it for barbecue. Whatever's left can go to the homeless, the mayor said with a laugh. Everyone chimed in, praising him for his clever idea. The crowd fell completely silent when her brother wheeled Aloan out on the cart. She's absolutely stunning. Is this the legendary mermaid we've heard about? Someone was staring at her with curiosity. Yes, I'll be preparing sashimi for everyone next. Please keep your hands to yourselves. My brother immediately slapped away a curious hand. Reaching out, I was already in the departing car by then. 5. The innkeeper who arranged my ride held my hand with visible reluctance. You must come back to visit when you have time. Yeah, I'll be back, I finished with a smile, then turned away and sat in the car, my expression turning cold again. I'm never coming back, not ever returning to this godforsaken place under the expectant gazes of everyone. Her brother methodically plucked Aloan's scales one by one with pliers. When the pain jolted her awake, she found herself strapped to the dining table, surrounded by hungry eyes watching her every move. Her beloved stood over her with a knife, carving into her flesh, the very knife she'd sharpened for him just days before. Kai. Aloan opened her mouth to call out, but found her voice completely failing her. The people waiting to eat fish noticed her movement. She's actually awake. Can she even speak? Her brother cast her an indifferent glance, all former tenderness gone. It's just a fish, how could it possibly talk? To prevent anyone from accidentally drinking Aloan's blood and being cured, her brother drained it first, though not completely drained. After losing most of her blood, she lacked the strength to struggle and collapsed weakly onto the table. The first few slices of meat were distributed to the town mayor. After feigning restraint while placing the fish slice in his mouth, his eyes lit up. Tender and delicious. Give me a few more slices. His greedy demeanor left those who hadn't gotten any fish slices rather displeased, but since he was the town mayor, nobody dared to speak up. The elder brother smiled gently. No need to rush, I'll make sure everyone gets their fair share in turn. The poison must be evenly distributed, otherwise some would die while others survived. The mayor, thoroughly enjoying the meal, urged his secretary to fetch fine wine for everyone. The secretary rushed back without delay to get the wine. The eldest brother received the first cup, took a sip, and smiled in satisfaction. Our chef deserves the first toast. After the mayor spoke, everyone's attitude toward my brother changed completely. I always knew Kai would be the most successful of the bunch. He's the best sailor every time we go out. I always want him on my crew. They were saying things that completely contradicted their actions, but it didn't matter. They now treated my brother with deference beyond them. Even more townsfolk had come running upon hearing the news. Aloan was by far the most despairing of all. Drained of blood, she lacked the strength to resist yet couldn't die. She could only watch helplessly as she indirectly caused so many deaths. Her lover carved her flesh slice by slice with a knife, even consuming some himself. Whether from rage or prolonged dehydration, Aloan's mind grew foggy, consumed by grief. Suddenly it dawned on her that she could still turn to her parents for help. If they summoned a tsunami to engulf the entire town, she'd regain her freedom of movement and could return home. The people at the table, and those standing by waiting to eat the fish, they all watched curiously as Aloan threw back her head and let out a piercing scream. They couldn't understand the mermaid's voice. The mayor watched Aloan's pained expression with growing fascination. She's actually crying. This fish can shed tears. Now Aloan truly understood fear. She finally realized how terribly wrong her actions were. Not only did she walk right into the trap herself, she nearly got her sister killed. Now that her sister has returned to the sea, she must have told their parents everything. They must be utterly disappointed in her. They won't come to save her now. Aloan lay on the table weeping faintly, her tears lending the fish meat an unexpected hint of flavor. Kai, could you share with us how you caught this mermaid? The older brother smiled with narrowed eyes. Sure, no problem. The sea was particularly rough that day. He spun a random tale, yet everyone at the table was completely captivated. With such an extraordinary experience, you really ought to write a book. Absolutely, this is simply incredible. The group chimed in with enthusiastic comments. His voice gradually trailed off as he spoke. The first to collapse was the town mayor, who had gorged on fish slices and downed copious amounts of liquor. Everyone just assumed he was drunk, laughing and teasing him about his low alcohol tolerance. Then, more and more people began Dropping like flies, the massive dining table stood at our doorstep, in that seldom visited place, now littered with corpses. Aloan watched helplessly as her brother's face turned deathly pale. He wouldn't last much longer. Tears welled in her eyes as she whispered to him, "Why?" Her brother gently stroked her cheek. "Why? Perhaps because killing you would benefit me more than marrying you ever could." Only bones remained where Aloan's fishtail had been. Trembling, she watched as her brother collapsed too. "Everyone is dead." Her head grew dizzier. She was dying too. My brother actually eavesdropped on my conversation with Maris. He knew a mermaid's death would trigger a tsunami, so he'd made peace with death. Tasting mermaid flesh before dying would make it worthwhile. The tsunami never came. Instead, there was a bizarre mermaid murder case. They discovered a table full of corpses, including a human torso with fish bones. Some suspected the massive fish skeleton had been stitched on. No. Some believe it was a genuine mermaid. I traveled by bus to a landlocked southern city where the locals carried themselves with refined grace, their manners gentle and poised, a stark contrast to those I'd known. I started by selling newspapers, then flowers, and eventually saved enough to set up a fish stall in the market. My stall gained regular customers because I prepared the cleanest fish in the market. This pays way more than shark fishing by the shore. I thought the tsunami had already wiped out that coastal town. A year later, I finally got that call from the shop owner lady. "Tao, how's life treating you out there? Coming back for a visit?" I almost thought it was a ghost calling. After some casual conversation, I learned that everyone who ate the fish back then had died, including my brother. Those who didn't eat the fish survived, and the tsunami never happened. I made time to go back for a quick look. The S-shop has now doubled in size, and she's doing quite well. The town's population has dwindled by more than half, leaving abundant resources for every remaining soul. I also visited what used to be our family home with my brother, now just ruins, though a few memorial tablets still remain. Upon closer inspection, I was surprised to find Aloan's among them, but I suspect it's because Aloan had once joyfully copied a marriage vow from the newspaper herself. 6. So the memorial tablet maker genuinely believed she was my brother's beloved. In a way, she got her wish fulfilled. After reading it, I prepared to take my leave. There's nothing left for me here. I've already started a brand new life. Soon I'll have saved enough for a house and car too. The end. Story 2. My sister has always been naturally kind-hearted, whereas I have always been seen as the bad seed. A heatwave was approaching, so we stockpiled supplies at home to avoid going out. When she saw a boy, who appeared to be around 7 or 8 years old, crying and asking for help, she decided to take him in. After all, we've prepared so much. One more person won't make a difference, especially since he's just a child. I warned her that the boy seemed unusually mature for his age and that things might not be as simple as they appear. I suggested we observe him a bit longer. She accused me of being cold-hearted by nature and let the boy into our house despite my concerns. Not only that, she convinced our mom to make me share a room with the boy that night. The little boy with ill intentions climbed into my bed. I was violated, and yet my sister asked me to forgive and forget, and to marry him. She even locked me on a sun-drenched balcony with temperatures soaring over 60 degrees Celsius to force my compliance. In a fit of rage, I set fire to the house, killing everyone. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to a day before it all happened, looking at my unscathed sister, and I laughed. This time, I will show them what being a true bad seed means. "Eleanor, you're amazing for stockpiling so much," Aurora said. "Now even if the heatwave lasts a month as the officials predict, we won't have to worry." The pain of being engulfed in flames was still fresh, yet I could already hear my sister Aurora's voice. "Eleanor, go and prepare some more. The more supplies we have, the more people I can help." I stared blankly at Aurora in front of me. I was supposed to have died with her in the fire. Seeing no response from me, Aurora pushed me. "Are you listening?" I nodded and replied, "I heard you." The reality of the touch made me realize I had been reborn, and I was reborn to the day before any of the tragedy had occurred. Aurora kept talking. "That's right. I always said you need to control your temper and learn to be kind. It'll make you a better person." In my past life, I listened to her and our mom. I took out all my savings and stockpiled even more supplies when we already had enough. Soon after, the things I had desperately gathered were given away to others who hadn't managed to secure any. By her seeing me motionless, she urged, "Hurry up, what are you standing there for?" I wiped the sweat from my forehead, licked my dry lips, and walked to the fridge to grab a cold Coke to quench the burning heat I felt. Then I looked at her and said, "Let's go together." Used to bossing me around, Aurora was stunned by my suggestion. She quickly responded, "It's so hot outside, running around could kill you, and it's chaotic these days. I don't want to go. Besides, you're strong and experienced. If I went Wouldn't I just be in your way? So, it turns out the heat could kill, and they were well aware of it. At this time last year, the temperature had already soared to 46 degrees Celsius, yet they still didn't care and sent me out to gather more supplies. I smiled at my mom. An extra person could lend a hand. Besides, my sister is worried about the heat. She could just wear sun protection and carry an umbrella, right? Or Mom, why don't you come with me? Of course, my mom didn't want to go, and immediately looked at my sister. If your sister asks you to go, just go. It's good to help each other out. As I've grown older, I find it hard to endure such high temperatures. Is it only me who can stand it, while everyone else can't? With no other choice, my sister, looking defeated, stepped out of the house with me. In my previous life, my mother always favored my sister. I always thought it was because I wasn't trying hard enough or obedient enough. It wasn't until I was on my deathbed that I learned the real reason. It was all because of my dear sister. My sister, 3 years my senior, studies genetics. She claimed that her research with big data provided ample evidence that I was inherently evil. She told my mother about how I used to dissect frogs when I was young. Not only that, but any dead rats or cats found at home were also my doing. She brought up many cases she found, saying that people like me were born without emotions and had high IQs, which is why I seemed cold but did well in school. She warned that if not controlled, I might end up committing serious crimes. My mother believed her and always guarded against me. My sister claimed I had an emotional disorder and needed to follow her advice and do more good deeds. But what I realized in my second life was that all these good deeds were sacrifices made at my expense, and because of my sister's words, even when I was tortured to near death, there was not a hint of distress in my mother's eyes. Instead, she seemed relieved. Thankfully, fate gave me a second chance at life. This time, I'll show them what a true bad seed looks like. Let's say I asked my sister to gather supplies with me, but it was just an excuse. Why should I suffer alone in such high temperatures? Once we stepped outside, a wave of heat hit us. The scorching sensation made one want to jump right back into an air-conditioned home, but I knew I had to go out. If I missed today, the temperature would only continue to rise, eventually soaring above a terrifying 60 degrees Celsius. Once outside, I purposely sped up, leaving my sister behind and heading straight for the destination. Though I blindly trusted them once, I wasn't foolish. To the extreme weather, along with high temperature warnings and abnormal magnetic fields, indicated a tough battle ahead. So, when initially stocking up on supplies, I stored most of them in a rented basement, leaving only some at home. In my previous life, I didn't have the chance to tell them before they betrayed me. With sufficient supplies, I no longer needed to scramble for more but went to buy a lithium chainsaw instead. While not as lethal as a dagger, it was enough to intimidate. Besides, I also bought several fruit knives and daggers for self-defense when necessary. Finally, I purchased a few hidden cameras. After gathering everything I needed into my backpack, I headed to the basement. In my past life, I found the basement cooler than an air-conditioned room when stocking up on supplies, considering the current temperature of over 40 degrees Celsius. The basement was expected to be no more than 30 degrees back then. The basement, used by the landlord for storage, was too hot and exhausting, so I often rested there. Luckily, when cleaning it out, I found a large inflatable swimming pool measuring 3 centimeters by 175 centimeters by 58 cm. Being thrifty, I checked that the pool was in good condition and didn't throw it away. No. It seemed the pool could serve as a reservoir. With this in mind, I began filling it with water. I knew that by the 10th day of the heatwave, water would become a major issue. After getting all my work done, I finally returned home. Seeing me come back empty-handed, in stark contrast to my sister who had just returned from outside looking disheveled, my mother couldn't help but scold me again. She blamed me for leaving my sister out there. I sneered and retorted, "Who is the older sibling here? It's absurd that such a grown person could get lost. It just shows a lack of common sense." Hearing this, my sister rolled her eyes at me. Just as she was about to argue back, both my mom's and my phone started to vibrate. I opened the message from the homeowners group chat and saw that the group admin had posted about coordinating supplies. The reason our phones had vibrated was because the admin had specifically mentioned my mom and me. I knew that the real drama was about to begin. In my previous life, when the group admin asked everyone to log their stockpile of supplies, my sister didn't hesitate to list all the resources we had at home: 20 bags each of flour and rice weighing 20 kilos, over 100 kilos of potatoes and cabbages, and a refrigerator stocked full of various meats, along with instant noodles and other ready meals. Our house was not only fully equipped but could sustain us for months without needing to go out. After the message was sent, the group exploded with envy. My sister, ever so generous, declared that anyone short on supplies could count on her. In no time, all 500 members of the group were praising her kindness and beauty. Because of this, my sister ended up giving away a large portion of our supplies, and because of that, we became easy targets in a den of wolves. When supplies later became scarce, our home was the first to be plundered by the neighbors. At this moment, overwhelmed by the heat, my sister slumped on the couch. Her phone had automatically shut down due to the high temperatures while she was out, so she was unaware of the group admin's mention, since I hadn't been in the heat for too long. My phone was still functioning. Ignoring me, she grabbed the towel from my mom, who was wiping her sweat, and walked into the bathroom saying, "I'm going to take a shower, it's just too hot." Meanwhile, I took out my phone and started to log the supplies: 20 bags of 20-kilo rice, 20 bags of 20-kilo flour, 10 boxes of Baixiang instant noodles. When I, just like my sister in a previous life, unreservedly listed all the supplies we currently had at home, my sister had just finished her shower and came out of the bathroom. Upon turning on her phone, she saw the long text I had filled in on the group chat. Additionally, there were strings of exclamations like, "Holy crap, awesome, room 1304 is legendary." Seeing this, my sister's face turned sour. She threw her phone onto the sofa and loudly scolded me. "Eleanor, are you stupid?" With a smile still on my face after reading the messages, I looked at her, genuinely puzzled, and asked, "What's wrong?" My sister, now laughing in frustration, raised her voice and asked, "What's wrong? You're asking me what's wrong, and here I was, thinking you were smart, but then you go and do something this foolish. You just told them what we have stored. Doesn't that put us in danger? What if someone comes asking for supplies, or worse, breaks in to rob us?" I had asked him the same question in a past life, but how had my sister responded? She accused me of being selfish, saying the high temperatures wouldn't last long and that it wouldn't matter if we gave away the goods for free. In the end, even my mom was convinced by her and joined in the accusations. Now, it seems she was aware of these drawbacks all along, but only thought of them when someone else was in charge, so I echoed the words she once said, starting to accuse her in return. "Sis, you've always told me to be helpful and honest. I'm just telling the truth here, and besides, everyone is inherently good, and the heat won't last forever. It's not as terrifying as you think. You always say that only those with a dark psyche think so ill of others. Don't tell me you're like that, sis." My sister's expression turned peculiar. She gave me a dismissive glance and murmured, "I was just speaking my mind. It's fine to be kind, but not foolish." She then joined the discussion in the group chat, ignoring me. By the end of the conversation, she had successfully taken credit for acquiring supplies, receiving a barrage of compliments from the other residents in the group. Immersed in the chorus of praises, my sister seemed to revel in it, but I knew what truly delighted her was yet to come. Just 3 days later, the temperature had soared from 46 degrees to 52.3 degrees. Many in the residents group complained that even the air conditioning was ineffective, and indeed, it was true. The air conditioner was running, but the air it blew felt hot. Sometimes, due to voltage issues, the air conditioner wouldn't start at all. The only way to cool down was to take a cold shower. I wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, I was waiting for the right moment. Even at night, when everyone was asleep, I secretly installed a hidden camera in a discreet location. Today was the day the source of sin would be revealed. Soon, people in the group started mentioning my sister and my mom, claiming they were running out of supplies and seeking help. They were willing to pay for them. Without waiting for my sister to reply, I mimicked her previous tactics and responded directly, "Why talk of money? We're all neighbors here, and as the saying goes, a near neighbor is better than a distant cousin. If you're lacking anything, just come to my house. Everyone faces hard times. Come on over, we have plenty to spare." As soon as the message was sent, many residents claimed they were short on supplies, and I agreed to help each one. Seeing the messages, my sister stood up and scolded me. "Eleanor, are you out of your mind, giving things away for free just because they asked?" I continued with an innocent look and asked her, "Didn't you say yesterday that we had plenty at home, and wasn't it you who said they were pitiful and that we should all stick together? Should we sell it at high prices instead?" "Sister, everyone's already so pitiable. Would it be too heartless to mark up prices?" While we were still arguing, someone knocked on the door. When the door opened, a swarm of people crowded out. You could tell how hot it was outside. Just walking from their homes to ours, they were already drenched in sweat. Although my sister was visibly annoyed, seeing a few handsome residents among the crowd, she willingly helped out. For every person who came seeking help, she handed out a bag of rice and a bag of flour, and even shared some of the vegetables and fruits stored at home. After the crowd had left, I checked and found that just from this distribution, we had given away half of our supplies. More people continued to arrive, and my sister kept generously handing out supplies. Some of the older visitors Even called her a living saint last time. It ended with just enough supplies at home to last 10 days. When the temperature hit 52.3 degrees, the door was knocked on again. I knew that the most crucial visitor had arrived. Indeed, through the peephole, I saw the little boy standing at the door. The little boy was crying and knocking on the door, claiming he hadn't eaten for several days. He said his parents had gone out and never returned, and if no one took him in, he would die outside. But from the look in the little boy's eyes, I could tell right away that he was not a child, but a dwarf in disguise. At that moment I stopped. But what did my sister say? As she opened the door, she mocked me to our mother. "Mom, look, she's just naturally cold-hearted. Anyone who comes knocking must be from our building. What if they need help?" Not only did her words belittle me, but they also made the dwarf resent me. And he later took the opportunity to assault me. Now, seeing the little boy standing outside, I turned to ask my sister, "Sis, there's what looks like a 7 or 8-year-old boy outside. Should we open the door?" "A little boy." My sister hesitated for a moment, then said, "Let's open it and see what's going on." As soon as the door opened, the little boy darted inside. The little boy was named Jonathan. I have to admit, he did look like a child, with the hands and feet of a young child and a head not as large as those of dwarfs I'd seen before, except for his eyes. There was really no sign of anything unusual. Once Jonathan was inside, my sister continued to radiate her maternal glow. She not only brought food but also prepared chilled cola. While my sister was in the bathroom, I whispered to Jonathan, "You can see my sister likes you. Don't worry, she'll definitely take you in." Sure enough, when my sister came out of the bathroom, she announced her decision to adopt the dwarf. Having been told earlier that my sister liked him, Jonathan now looked at my sister with a different expression in his eyes. I knew that the upcoming drama would definitely be more interesting. Like in a past life, the topic of where Jonathan would sleep at night came up again. This time, I was the first to suggest, "Why don't we let Jonathan sleep with my sister, and I'll sleep in the same room as Mom?" Our home was a small 3-bedroom, and the smallest room, hardly 10 square meters, was originally my place. But after the heat wave and the start of hoarding supplies, it had turned into a storage room, crammed with all sorts of things, making it uninhabitable. Usually, my sister and I shared a room, but upon hearing this, my sister immediately frowned. "How can that be? Jonathan is still a boy." I interrupted her, "Sis, Jonathan is just a child. How can you judge a child with an adult's mindset? How filthy your thoughts are. Besides, Jonathan seems to really like you. He'd definitely be happy to sleep with you, right, Jonathan?" With my prior prompting, Jonathan immediately nodded, beginning to boast, "Yeah, I like Aurora's sister the best. She's beautiful and kind-hearted." Faced with the praise, my sister was indeed pleased and forgot her initial reluctance, readily agreeing. That night, I deliberately stayed up late. Around 2 in the morning, unusual noises began to come from my sister's room. One could imagine how my sister, still deep in sleep, was slowly taken advantage of by the dwarf lying beside her, and it was precisely because of the noise coming from my sister's bedroom that I clearly understood something. When I had called for help before, it wasn't that they hadn't heard, they had chosen to ignore it. Unlike me, my sister seemed to take great pleasure in the proceedings. Soon, her cries of alarm from the bedroom turned into sounds of mutual pleasure. Knowing that the dwarf had succeeded, I went to sleep with peace of mind. The next morning, I was awakened by my sister's cries for help. When my mother and I came out of the room, we saw my sister, disheveled, rushing out the door, pointing at Jonathan. She sobbed to our mother, "Mom, he assaulted me. He's no child." Instantly, my mother's face turned pale. A panicking Jonathan fell to his knees with a thud, hitting himself and begging for forgiveness. "Auntie, I know I was wrong. I admit I'm a disgrace. It wasn't intentional deception. The harsh circumstances forced my hand. If I hadn't done it, you wouldn't have taken me in, right? I'm willing to take responsibility for my actions. I truly care for Aurora." Hearing this, my sister's crying grew louder. "I don't want you to take any responsibility, Mom. Call the police now. I want him in jail." I couldn't help but laugh out loud, drawing the attention of all three towards me. "Scum, what are you laughing at?" My sister, infuriated, lunged at me, but before she could hit me, I pushed her away. "I'm laughing because you're being foolish, sister. It's over 50 degrees outside. Do you think calling the police will help? Besides, he already said he likes you, and it wasn't on purpose. You must like him too, otherwise why let him in? And you say he assaulted you, but why didn't I hear you cry for help last night? It seemed like you were enjoying it." My last remark made her face turn red up to her neck. She gritted her teeth and spat out, "Eleanor, what nonsense are you spouting? Keep talking, and I'll tear your mouth apart." I tilted my head towards my mother. "Mom, why not let them get married? It'd be helpful to have an extra hand around, especially with the heatwave persisting. Having a man in the house could be beneficial in case of emergencies. I threw their words right back at them. In my past life, they forced me into marrying Jonathan because they said the household needed a man. Now, it was my turn to act. My sister exploded in rage. Eleanor, have you lost your mind? I'm fully capable. And you expect me to marry a dwarf? I'm telling you, even if it kills me today, I will not. Before she could finish, I had already drawn a dagger and pressed it against her neck. This marriage has to happen. My mother, frantic with maternal love, screamed as I held the knife to my sister's neck. Eleanor, what are you doing? She's your sister. Yes, she is my sister, but what of it? In my previous life, the three of them forced me to comply. When I resisted, not only did they beat me, but they even tied me up and left me on an exposed balcony. I was scorched by the blazing temperatures, my skin peeling off, but they sat comfortably in air-conditioned rooms, eating chilled watermelon, enjoying the show. I looked at my mother and answered her earlier question. Of course, I'm trying to facilitate a good marriage. Brother-in-law, what are you waiting for? I slightly lifted my chin, signaling him to use the rope in the corner. Jonathan happily complied. In no time at all, I had tied my sister up securely. As for my mother, with a dagger in my possession, she dared not make a reckless move, only continuously crying and pleading for me not to treat my sister this way. I glanced at her emotionlessly and pushed my sister toward the balcony. Even before opening the glass door to the balcony, the heat was already intense. Then I opened the door and shoved her out forcefully. Since sister is unwilling, she can reflect on it outside. Maybe she'll come to her senses after calming down. My sister fell to the ground, screaming as the scorching hot tiles burned her. She then crawled to a shadow away from the sunlight, continuously cursing under her breath. Meanwhile, I closed the glass door, took a chilled watermelon from the fridge, and enjoyed the spectacle while eating it. My mom, intimidated by the dagger in my hand, tried to approach, but before she could touch the glass, I stopped her. Until she gives in, whoever opens the door, I will throw them out, including you, Mom. My mother's raised hand could only sheepishly retract at that moment, seeing no hope left. Aurora quickly shifted from cursing to begging. Eleanor, please let me in. It's too hot outside. I could die from this. I agreed to marry. Isn't that enough? Let me in. Please let me in. I glanced at the time and clicked my tongue. So useless. Can't even last 20 minutes. You should know that in a past life, I had to endure an hour outside. At that moment, my sister was dragged in like a dead dog. She lay limp as mud, her body soaked with sweat, cheeks flushed red, continuously mumbling, "Water. I need water. I'm dying from the heat." Jonathan lecherously eyed my sister, his gaze lingering over her body, accentuated by the sweat-soaked clothes. Realizing this, I said, "Brother-in-law, since my sister feels hot, please help her to the washroom for a cool shower." My mother seemed to want to say something but was silenced by a look from me. All she could do was watch helplessly as Jonathan tipped my sister away. As for what would happen inside, I think both my mother and I understood better than anyone. After this ordeal, my sister indeed became more subdued. I knew she wouldn't let things go easily. Since the deed was already done, it was time for me to leave. The consequences should be borne by them alone. That evening, after dinner, I took precautions and left the house under the pretext of finding supplies. As I expected, the basement remained cool. As soon as I entered, the heat on me was automatically dispelled. Everything ready. The remaining time was, of course, for enjoying the drama unfold. Turning on the surveillance, I saw my sister and mother no longer restrained. They opened the fridge and indulged in the cold beverages inside. Eventually, my sister, as if remembering something, secured the door with several locks. My mother exclaimed in shock, "You've locked the door. What about when your sister comes back?" My sister coldly replied, "Come back? Did you forget what she did to me? Should we let someone like her come back to kill us?" My mother paused, seemingly pondering over this question. My sister persisted in dissuading her. "Mom, you've seen the news. So far, thousands of people have died from the heat. Even if one more dies, it wouldn't be our fault. Look, the temperature is almost reaching 60 degrees now. Besides, you've seen the food situation at home. If there's one less person, it could let us hold out for a bit longer." Mom didn't reply, which was taken as her consent. To me, all this was irrelevant. After all, in my previous life, I had already seen through their true colors. That night, I didn't rush back home, and neither of them sent me any messages or called. It wasn't until the afternoon of the third day, when they noticed that the water supply at home was cut off, that they remembered to send me a message. "Eleanor, how are you? You've been out for so long. Why haven't you come back yet? Did something happen? The water's cut off at home, and we don't know when it will be restored. If you can think of a way, try to get some water back home." Mom sat in a chair, staring at her phone with a complex expression. My sister scoffed coldly, "Don't worry about her. She's probably dead outside. Better off dead. It's so annoying. the temperature keeps rising, and now the water's stopped too. We can't even bathe and everything feels sticky. I didn't reply to the message. Instead, I was drinking chilled cola, enjoying the air conditioning, and eating hot pot, watching the scene on my phone. I really wanted to show them how comfortable my life was now, but the time wasn't right. I turned off the phone and continued to enjoy my hot pot, occasionally checking messages in the community group. Some were glad they had stored water in advance, others regretted not having stored water at home. There were also sighs about people who chose to end their lives due to the lack of supplies, only a few responses, and the number of people replying was decreasing every day. 2 days later, my sister and the others couldn't hold out any longer. They hadn't stored water in advance, only having some in the bathtub and a large fish tank at home, which still impacted their daily lives. Most importantly, their food supplies were also diminishing. Finally, my sister couldn't stand it anymore and dialed my number. To her surprise, I answered the phone after just a few rings. Hearing my voice, the first thing she asked was, "Eleanor, you're still alive?" I took a big gulp of chilled cola and responded with a nonchalant "What else? Can a dead person answer the phone?" Hearing the sound of my swallowing, she immediately asked, "Where are you? Are you drinking water? Come back soon. The water's stopped at home, and we're all going to die of thirst." I looked around. The small basement was like a little supermarket, one wall filled with food, snacks, and drinks. I then said, "I'm in a safe place, not drinking water. I'm drinking chilled cola. As for coming home, I can't make it. You know, it's over 60 degrees outside, and stepping out recklessly would kill me from the heat." My sister, not hearing my last sentence, asked through gritted teeth, "You're drinking chilled cola. Where did you get the cola?" "I knew it," I accused. "You said you were going out to find supplies that day, but you were actually just hiding, weren't you?" I responded with a smile. "Correct answer, but there's no prize for you. By the way, I've got not only chilled Coke here but also plenty of water. Surviving a month, absolutely no problem." My words seemed to have struck a nerve with my sister. She screamed, "Eleanor, where on earth are you? You better tell us your location, or Mom and I will never forgive you." I feigned fear in my reply. "I'm so scared. What should I do?" "Sister, with you talking like that, I'm even more afraid to tell you my location. What if you come and kill me?" Mom grabbed the phone from her and tried to persuade me gently. "Eleanor, we're really running out of water at home. Your sister and we've even resorted to drinking the water from the fish tank. If this continues, we'll either die of starvation or thirst. Mom knows you're still a kind-hearted child, right?" I interrupted her. "No, you're wrong. I'm just as bad as my sister said. Born bad. How could a bad seed possibly save you? You say you're running out of water. Well, it doesn't matter. You could always drink urine." I laughed loudly, but as I did, tears uncontrollably started to fall. Watching them descend into hell wasn't as satisfying as I had imagined, but I was certain this was the last time I'd be so weak. After laughing, I hung up the phone and, in one go, blocked all their contacts. I watched through the surveillance as they became frantic, yelling and cursing. Eventually, they collapsed from exhaustion due to conserving their energy, but the punishment was far from over. There were devils around them, and more were on their way. People in the group began to stir, resorting to all sorts of tricks for water and food. Some traded themselves for a piece of bread and a bottle of water. There were even suggestions in the residents' group chat that, in extreme water shortages, one could consider other sources given the high water content in the human body. As for my sister, she became another version of me from a past life. Jonathan came with a dagger, threatening her to use her phone to send a message in the residents' group, offering herself in exchange for a bottle of water and a piece of bread. Initially, my sister refused, but after being beaten by Jonathan, she had no choice but to comply. The men in the building began to frequently visit my sister's room, paying with just a bottle of water or a piece of bread. I watched the scene with cold eyes. I had been through all this in a past life. Though the person was a dwarf, he was surprisingly strong and agile, and with the help of Mom and my sister, I stood no chance against him. Those men abused me at will, and all I could do was silently endure, barely scraping together enough supplies to survive, even selling myself. I could only obtain just enough to keep alive. This life, it was finally her turn to endure it all. The scene did not last long. After just 5 more days, people stopped going out to exchange supplies with my sister. Some were unwilling to risk the extreme heat, and many more were simply running out of food and water. When they couldn't hold on any longer, Jonathan turned his attention back to my sister. He held a dagger to her, instructing her to go out and find supplies, or to find me directly for help. Left with no other choice, my sister reluctantly agreed. Who would have thought that within less than 5 minutes of stepping out the door, there was already frantic banging and heart-wrenching cries to open it. When Jonathan opened the door, his sister had already been sunburned to the point where her skin was peeling, and her face was as red as a boiled shrimp. Seeing that she had returned empty-handed, Jonathan pulled out his belt and mercilessly beat her. When their mother tried to intervene, Jonathan stabbed her in the neck's main artery with the dagger in his hand. Almost the moment the dagger was pulled out, blood sprayed everywhere, yet Jonathan didn't panic. Instead, his eyes revealed a sense of delight. He quickly began to catch the blood flowing from his mother, his face alight with excitement. I think my sister must have gone mad too. After being scolded by Jonathan, she quickly grabbed a stainless steel bowl to collect our mother's blood. The two of them, looking at a large bowl full of blood, laughed more joyously than ever before. The scene that followed was too gruesome, and I didn't have the courage to watch. When I turned the surveillance back on, my mother's body was nowhere to be found, and the room had been cleaned. They lasted another 5 days, and when I turned on the surveillance on the 6th day, my sister too lay dead on the ground. Like our mother, she died with her eyes wide open, as if in disbelief of what she saw. As for Jonathan, still holding the bowl, his eyes were red and filled with greed. Ironically, just after he had done everything, the sound of rushing water came from the bathroom faucet. The water had come back, and just like that, my sister had lost her life in vain. Watching her pale, unblinking face on the surveillance, as aggressive in her previous life and now two completely different people. Back then, she locked me on the balcony and whipped me fiercely, barely alive. I asked the question that had always puzzled me. She told me with a laugh, "Who made you smarter? Who made you better than me in everything since childhood? Only by your death can I truly surpass you. No, dying like this, you got what you deserved." No, she is also dead. Unfortunately, compared to my previous death, her way of dying was much more merciful. The extreme heat eventually lasted a full 2 months. During these 2 months, the news reported daily on the death toll and temperature. By the end, the death toll had shockingly reached tens of thousands, but I knew that might still be an underestimate. After all, many bodies lay undiscovered in unknown corners. 2 months later, the temperature gradually started to drop, returning to the normal summer temperature of 40 degrees. After half a month, people gradually began to venture outside, and after nearly 3 months of staying indoors, I too was ready to step out and embrace a new beginning. But for some reason, I felt uneasy about leaving the house. After much hesitation, I turned on the surveillance again. The room was empty, and just when I thought Jonathan had also gone out, a figure staggered out from the direction of the bedroom. It was Jonathan. His walk was not like that of a normal person. Upon closer inspection, his skin was grayish-white, his limbs stiff, and his eyes lifeless. Could this be a zombie? This discovery startled me. At the same time, a message popped up on my phone. "Citizens, please be aware. An emergency notice has been issued for our city due to an unidentified virus outbreak. Infected individuals will exhibit symptoms similar to rabies, and the contagion rate is extremely high. Please do not go out unless necessary. If you encounter anyone infected or scratched, keep your distance and contact the police immediately." Just after reading the message, a sudden bang came from the door. I walked to the door and peered through the peephole, seeing a figure staggering forward. The bang sound was due to him walking unsteadily and bumping into the door. Looking at the materials I had prepared earlier in the basement to make weapons, I sighed deeply. A new world was coming.